broken system, chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street.
Any American casualties are high. It's a dangerous and difficult mission, but it must be seen through. And
debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where we will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rotten greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where we will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Listen, I think that it gives a lot of or did you like it?
Welcome to the bullpen, where we will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Welcome to the bullpen.
Hello.
Yeah,
I was the only one with the camera on. What the hell?
I know.
Yeah.
Turn it on again.
Suckers.
I'm already sweating up a storm. Between the hat and the jacket, it's even worse than usual. Well, yeah, special.
But you have the most
edition.
sweat, the biggest sweat, the hugest sweat
It's
of
the
all.
best
the
sweat,
best
the
sweat.
hugest sweat. Yeah. So
Everybody
we are
loves
here
his
for a
sweat.
special episode to cover the presidential debate, and we've got a ton of guests tonight. We've got, of course, my co-host Lil Chad. We've got Slenderdad and Bride of Slender, the Shagsworth, Mr. Comix Division, and
Hello.
Culture Casino himself, and a few more going to be joining in a little bit. So,
Hello, everybody.
I think the plan is we're going to play the debate and not pause it, and just try to behave ourselves and not talk over the debate too much and not
That's
talk
gonna
over
be-
each
That's going
other
to be
too
impossible.
much.
Stop setting expectations you can't live up to,
Well, it's better than
or that I can't live up to.
it's better than pausing it and finding out that something crazy happened 30 minutes ago.
Later, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
really hope there's footage of her like little podium like moving up and down to look to height adjust for her.
Yeah, I'm assuming everybody saw that story, that they made a tiny podium for her so that when they show them side by side, it'll look like they're equal in size to their podiums.
For real?
Yeah, that was one of her demands.
Wait, I mean, isn't that just going to make her look shorter, though?
No,
not
'cause
when
they're
it's on
gonna-
the side by, like the picture.
They're going to
splits
do a
down.
they're
split
doing a
screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I get the split screen. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
But it's
That
still
was one of her
ridiculous.
demands. That's priceless.
Yeah, that one came out today that was a demand that she made. So
What is this? A podium for ants?
I think Floral's probably got the prediction of the evening right there.
So, something funny that I found. So you guys may know or not know. I spend a lot of time debating people on TikTok, like leftists on TikTok. And one of the things I
That
find
sounds like a waste of time.
it's interesting. It's a very interesting social experiment. And one of the things I find is that people spend more time correcting guests on how they say Kamala,
Oh yeah,
Kamala, whatever.
Camilla.
And it's like,
Allah.
it hurts my brain because they'll get stuck on that for a good 5 minutes. And then you're like, wait, what are we talking about again? It's ridiculous.
because which version is the pronunciation she goes with is the Kamala.
Kamala.
Well, that's the one when
thought her
she's
name
an
was
Indian.
Camelot.
Yep. Kamala is
No,
when
sorry,
she's the
Paco.
Indian. Kamala is when she's the black lady. I mean, figure it out, guys.
But
Look,
what was
just
on
think
her what was on her name tag at McDonald's?
That's what we
Yeah.
Camelot.
Camelot.
Non-existent.
Just think of camel toe, and you're halfway there.
I mean, when
I
in
will say
doubt, we
this.
should just ask Willie Brown how that worked out. What name did he use?
Yeah.
Well, I
So
don't know.
I'm
He-
curious.
he-
Did Trump actually bring Willie Brown's wife to the debate? Like that meme was going around. I mean, I don't know if that was actually true or not, but it was kind of funny.
That'd be funny.
That would be freaking
He
hilarious.
did bring Juanita Broderick to the one with Hillary Clinton. So
Oh, I did not know that.
And Reed.
You don't
to the one
remember
with
that?
Biden, I think.
No, I didn't. I watched that debate too. I didn't realize that she.
because
Eddie
there was
Broderick.
all those funny memes about like Bill Clinton giving the side eyes like in the audience.
Didn't he bring Tara Reid to the Biden one, or was that just to the State
Those
of
were
the
the
Union?
COVID
man.
ones, so he could. I don't think he was allowed to bring.
Okay,
guests.
then it must have been State of the Union that he had her as a guest.
That's hilarious.
It's interesting. I was listening to the Eric Weinstein interview with Chris Williamson the other day, and the one thing he brought up, and I was so happy he brought it up, was the fact that all these politicians, like, they play their part so well. Like even back as far as like George Bush, like they just pretend to they pander to a base and they pretend to be these people that they're not. And Trump has done this beautifully over the past 10 years of just being the meme, and he leans into it so hard, and he thinks that people making fun of him are like hurting him, but it just empowers him, and it even empowers his base, rallies behind him even harder. Like, it's strange that the left hasn't caught on to this yet, and because I don't think
Well, they're not exactly smart, right? I mean, that's just
yeah
a way of putting it.
yeah
Well, they finally caught on a little bit by not sentencing him yesterday and waiting, because if they had sentenced him, I mean, that definitely would have just driven more people to him again. I mean,
Oh yeah,
every time they've gone after him like that, he's getting bumps. in
he
polls.
definitely gets a bump in the poll numbers, which is apparently what's been going on. Regardless of that, I mean, apparently after the honeymoon period for Kamala is over already,
Oh, yeah.
and her numbers are just dropping like a freaking lead
you
balloon.
mean the mirage, the mirage of Kamala?
Yes.
Yeah, none of that was actually. There was a lot of response bias. The fundamentals on those crosstabs were just atrocious. On our show every week, I majored in political science in college. I've got poll class training, and stuff. And I go into and I talk with Brahm about it, and I show this is why this poll is complete bullshit. And you shouldn't listen to it because they're manipulating their numbers pretty drastically.
Their
Well,
weighting
and
is
we've
way
been saying
off.
that for weeks, though, that the goal here is not to make Kamala look good. It's to demoralize the people who are, rooting for Trump.
Well,
Yes.
actually, the goal is to demoralize the people that are rooting for Kamala, because they really need to figure out that they're pretty dumb.
Yeah.
It was actually to avoid the catastrophic 1984 level wipeout, because the polling, if you really want to get into it, before Biden dropped out, Minnesota and Virginia were legitimately going Trump. Like, that's how crazy Joe Biden's numbers bad were. And when you factor in the demoralized Democratic base just not voting and that kind of swing, you're talking 60 seat Senate plus strong majority in the House, where they could pretty much actually get whatever they wanted done, barring uniparty shenanigans, of course. But That's why it was down ballot that made them get rid of Joe. It wasn't.
That's what
it
finally
wasn't
convinced him to get out.
Because they're pretty much
down ballot.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much resigned to the fact that Kamala is actually going to lose. They didn't want the wipeout. There's with Kamala there's a possibility that they actually pick up the House because the House Republicans have been so damaged by uniparty betrayals, with people quitting and giving up seats and that kind of thing.
Well, that and just being compromised pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There is that.
Do you think Trump? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Do you think Trump has some level of couth tonight, or do you think he goes for the throat? With,
go ahead, Coulter.
I think she'll word salad her place right into a corner.
So one of my predictions is that she tries to use "I'm speaking." Did you guys see the
super clip?
Shoot? What? No, what's that? No,
clip from the Pence debate.
No. It was who does the political cartoon stuff? Seamus.
Freedom Tunes.
Freedom Tunes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
He did a really funny one, and I think it's accurate. Where she's going to be like, "I'm speaking," and her mic is muted.
Yep.
I hope she does it and then he doesn't react to it, because that will boost him. So that's what I think he needs to do, is just let her do her thing and then he just stands there and responds.
So here's the thing. All right, so this debate is being hosted on ABC, which is run by, and Coulter knows this deep stuff, but not just Disney, a specific person at Disney who is Kamala's bestie of all besties, Dana Wald.
Oh yeah.
She went to the point where she introduced Kamala to her not gay at all husband.
He's gay.
So that's
well, okay. I personally think.
But what what I was going to say is, I think what's going to happen is with the Trump mics muted, because they fought hard to do that. So that was their first attempt at setting up the "I'm speaking." They're going to do a moment where a moderator tries to interrupt her.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the male one. Who is it? It's their anchor, Peter. Is it Peter Muir or whatever his name is?
David Muir.
David Muir. I was thinking, what was the old one? Peter, the old anchor for ABC, the Canadian.
You're saying they have a whole scripted event set up?
If I was a betting man, I would say that's how they'll get around it, because you can't plan for Trump, but you can plan for having a stage thing with a moderator.
Oh yeah,
interrupting her and giving her girl boss moment.
Her girl boss.
I think their biggest mistake was muting the mics for Trump, because she could get her girl boss moment saying "I'm speaking" if he interrupts her. I
that's
think
why she was desperate to get him turned back on.
Yeah,
that doesn't
I think
win
that
for her though.
I think what we're gonna see is Trump is going to be like he was with the Biden debate, where he's going to be maintaining his composure.
Good.
And if he does, I think that's going to make him look far better than he has in the past when he was debating Hillary and Biden back in 2020.
100%.
Yeah.
There's one risk, I think, which is, like we said, he's going into the Lion's Den. Obviously, ABC is very friendly to Kamala, and they're gonna frame their questions in very accusatory ways when they're talking to Trump. As long as he doesn't let that rattle him, which he usually doesn't. Every once in a while, though, they get under his skin and he goes, as they say, off teleprompter.
Remember at that Urban Reporter event, that was an ABC reporter that threw that question at him right at the beginning.
Oh, so he's going in there feeling good tonight.
The one where they brought, because that's going to be a question, and I still want to know how Trump, he needs to deflect and just go after her record as a flip-flopper and say she's not authentic, and not take the bait about going after her specific racial identity. Yeah, because they'll twist that forever. But if he's smart, the way to go after that when they bring him that question is, look, what I was getting at is that you can't trust anything that comes out of this woman's mouth. She said she's for banning fracking. Now she's not. She's this, she's that. Immediately twisted into her being an inauthentic liberal, in sheep's clothing. Don't even address the other stuff.
Look, she is a political chameleon. She is going to tell you whatever she thinks you want to hear and then do whatever she wants after.
That's funny, because people have said the exact same thing about Hillary, too, being a political chameleon.
Well, and technically that's what happened with Biden. Yeah. Biden was supposed to lead from the center, and he immediately went far left as soon as he got in office. I think that's the playbook for Democrats to get elected, is pretend you're not a Democrat.
Well, you mean Lady McBiden went far left.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't even have the cognitive ability to go. Someone was pulling him that way, right? Like,
I mean, come on, man. Do you know that tomorrow he's doing 9/11?
Trump really should hit her on this, because she's desperately trying to get away from Biden and the whole last 3.5 years.
Oh, I think Trump will hit her on it.
Right, but she finally put out some actual stuff on her website last night.
Yes.
And it was all copied and pasted from Biden's agenda.
Biden campaign, yeah. I heard about that.
So she's even plagiarizing her platform.
Well, no, I mean, why wouldn't she? I mean, it's basically an extension of whatever the hell this has been the last 3.5 some odd years, I guess.
We know that, but she's trying to convince us it's not an albatross around her neck.
No, it totally is. I mean, I guess the joke is that this is going to be Obama's fourth term at this point,
right?
So I mean, second verse same as the first.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the Democrats have not seen the likes of lawfare, in their history until very soon.
Yeah.
If Trump is elected. So. Oh, wow. Look at these two scumbags.
And around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
All right, how's the volume?
Lindsay Davis, tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaign.
I can hear it over Space Marine, too.
2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate.
For Kamala, this is her
President
first
Donald
time
Trump
taking any questions.
Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing.
We didn't share it with the campaign. We just shared it with people who then talked to the campaign.
Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution.
Because not a note taped.
Intimate setting for 2 candidates.
That was another thing that they did change. If an argument starts, they can leave the microphones open.
Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Woo woo. So awkwardly quiet.
Yeah.
Yes.
With
wow, holy shit. He does.
They've
tower
never
over
met
her.
first, or they've never met face to face.
Look at that little podium.
Yep.
Man, she's
Good
a midget.
evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So
Did she just introduce herself to
I want
him?
begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost.
I will
of
say that
living
is one
in this
thing I
country.
do like.
Vice
I
President
didn't
Harris,
like
you and
when
President
Joe
Trump were
Biden
elected
and
4
Trump
years
did not
ago, and your
shake
opponent
hands.
on
Hang on,
stage here tonight
see what the question is.
often asks his supporters, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?"
No.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe
She's
Americans
a
are
lying
better off
cunt.
than they were 4
This
years
is going
ago?
to be weird.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the
Canada.
only
In
person
Montreal.
on this stage
No one's
that
believing
has a
that.
plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is
mean
the
like
largest
what Trump had done?
child tax credit that we have given in a long time,
J.D.
so that
Vance
those
suggested?
young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before. which is to provide a
When it
tax
works.
cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Wrong.
Economists have said
I guess
that
that's what
that
the
Trump
tariffs,
sales
is that what
tax
you're
would
talking about?
actually result
Yeah, but that's what
for
inflation has
middle-class
done for
families
3 years.
in
It's
about
20%
$4,000
increase on almost
more
everything.
a year.
I'm paying a lot more than
because of
20% on most
his policies
groceries
and his
at this point.
ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
Go look at eggs.
This has been a disaster for people,
Yeah,
for the middle
big time.
class, but for every
Joe.
class. On top of that, we have millions of people
Even with the
pouring
tiny
into our
podium,
country
her
from
microphone is so
prisons
high.
and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are
That was a
occupied
good move.
right
He's
now
going to
by
bait her into
African
arguing
Americans
that
and
things aren't as
Hispanics.
expensive
And
as people
also
think.
unions are going to
Yeah.
be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings.
First
They're
question.
going in
Bam.
violently. These are the people
already
that
went to
she
immigration.
and
Very
Biden
nice.
led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast.
Okay.
I created
right.
one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump
Let's
left us.
talk about it.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great
She's a-
Depression.
No,
She's
COVID
really-
left
We're
you
going
that.
with COVID.
The
What a
worst
dumb town.
public health epidemic in a century.
Oh.
Donald
Yeah,
Trump
So China
left
gave us
us
that.
That
the
yeah, China gave
worst
us that
attack
bitch,
on our
and you were
democracy
complicit in it.
since the Civil War.
There was a
And what we
peaceful
have
transfer of
done
power.
is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
At
What
least
you're
she's
going to
gonna
hear
admit she
tonight
does it.
is a
Yeah.
detailed and
what I
dangerous
was
plan
thinking.
called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only
more
jobs they
deaths
got
under
were
Biden.
bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
Rama, on that
So,
comment you highlighted with Trump
Donald
sending
Trump
that
has no
orange
plan for
ship
you.
to New York City too.
And when you look at his
I'm familiar with
economic
those
plan,
ships.
it's
They
all
are
about
more
tax breaks
technologically
for the
advanced
richest
than most
people.
hospitals.
I am offering what I
Like, they are
describe as an
incredibly
opportunity
incredibly
economy,
good at treating
and
people.
the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What
I mean,
the
she's
Wharton School
essentially
has
been the
said
de
is
facto
Donald Trump's
president for
plan
3.5 years
would
now.
actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next
many
year
haven't?
would invite a recession.
Well, bear in mind, Paul
You just have
Krugman's
to
one of the
look
Nobel
at
laureates,
where
so
we
just
are and where we stand on the
assume
issues. And
that's
I'd
the
invite
level
you to know
of quality
that
you're getting.
Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say.
If he had
I
no
went to the
plan
Wharton
for
School
me,
of
it's
Finance,
better than
and
the plan
many
you
of
guys
those
have been
professors,
enacting.
the top professors,
My groceries
think my
have,
plan is a
like,
brilliant
tripled.
plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever.
Tariffs
China
work
was
when you've got
paying
a
us
beast
hundreds
behind them
of
enforcing
billions
them.
of dollars, and so were other countries. And you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately got the tariffs. But those tariffs are there
Comix
3.5
dogs
years
saw
now
Kamala.
under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars.
I had no idea this
hundreds
part
of
came out.
billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure
Let's
the
talk
United
about the
States
amount
of
of stuff
America
left in
wins the
Afghanistan.
competition for the 21st century, which
Like,
means
avoiding the
focusing
question,
on the
like-
details of what that requires,
Also,
focusing
selling
on
China some
relationships with our
chips
allies,
is not that big a deal.
focusing
It's
on
not gonna
investing
suddenly
in
make their military
American-based
on par with
technology
ours.
so that we win the race on AI
They're not-
or quantum
they weren't our
computing.
enemy at the time. They
Focusing
still
on what we
technically
need to
aren't.
do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point.
It's called diplomacy, bitch.
Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origin.
Also, now it is China's fault.
President Trump.
Ooh,
thank you.
that's funny.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies
chips are
like
made in
they have
Taiwan.
and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these
Please
people
bring up
coming
the
in are
ducks.
criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before,
And
we'll
the
talk about
cats.
immigration later.
Hey, cat ladies.
Well, bad
too.
immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life
so
president
they're
in
already
American
framing it
history.
on ABC.
Then last month, you said
They
that
have
your
the question, do you
administration
believe
would be great
Americans
for
can
women
afford
and
higher
their
prices
reproductive
because of
rights.
tariffs?
In your home state of
Does that sound
Florida, you
fair?
surprised many with
Yeah,
regard to
that's
your six-week
bullshit.
abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short, and you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust
the
you on
point
the
is,
issue of abortion because
Roe versus Wade
you've
being
changed your
overturned sent it
position
back
so
to the
many
states. It's a
times.
states' rights
Therefore,
issue.
why should they trust
Leave
you?
it
Well, the
there.
reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an
Virginia.
excellent job.
Correct
No, no, not
yourself.
West
But the
Virginia.
governor before,
Not West Virginia.
he said
It was
the
Virginia.
baby will be born, and we will decide what to
They're
do
gonna
with the
fact check
baby. In
him on
other
that
words,
one.
we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born,
Yeah, she
is
needs to
okay.
thank the Trump
And that's
campaign
not
for
okay
muting
with
her
me.
mic.
Hence the vote.
She
But
can't
what I
control
did
her
is
facial
something
expressions
for
either.
52
making
years
comments,
they've
you
been
can
trying to
see
get
her over
Roe
there.
v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also.
Everybody believes
85%
in
of
those
Republicans
exceptions.
do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart
He's fired up
for
and knows he's
52
dealing with a
years.
lightweight.
Every legal scholar, every Democrat,
Hey.
every Republican, liberal,
There's Ms.
conservative,
Keri
they
Smith.
all wanted
Hello.
this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great
As it should
service in
be.
doing it. It took courage to do it.
Yep.
And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous
I
credit
may not
to
like
those 6
the decisions
justices.
some states
There is
make,
no state
but
in this
I'd
country
rather
where it
they
is
made
legal
their
to
own
kill a
decision
baby
than the
after
federal
it's
government
born.
took
Now,
control.
Vice President, I want to get your response to
Oh, what did she say?
Well, as I
She
said,
said there's
you're
no
hearing a bunch of
state in the
lies,
United
and
States
that's
that
not
it's
actually a
legal to kill the
surprising
baby
fact.
after it's born.
let's understand
You
how
don't
we
kill
got
it.
here.
You just leave it on the table and
Donald
decide
Trump
not to do anything.
hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention
Which is
that
his
they would
right.
undo the protections of Roe v.
Every
Wade.
president
Yeah.
hand selects
And they did
Supreme
It's a non-issue.
exactly as he intended.
Yeah.
And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it
That's
criminal
bullshit.
for a doctor
Not
or
Trump
nurse
abortion
to
bans.
I wasn't aware
provide
Trump
healthcare
was there in
one state. It provides
1847 when
prison
some of
for
those
life.
got passed. But
Yep.
Trump abortion
Oh,
bans
well.
that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That
And
is
the
immoral.
baby doesn't have a right.
And one does
No,
not have
never
to
has a right.
abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with
Girl
her
boss moment.
body.
Girl
I
boss
have
moment.
not
Her
body.
around our country.
Yeah, but it
You
works
wanna
right
talk
into
about
his
this is what people wanted?
what he's been saying.
Pregnant women
He doesn't
who
want
to
anything to do
carry
with it
a
at the
pregnancy to
federal
term,
level.
suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers
that's
are
bullshit,
afraid
let's see if
to
we
go
get
to
this
jail.
fact check that
She's
no
bleeding out
hospital
a
in the
car
country can
parking lot.
deny
Yeah.
She didn't
miscarriage
want that.
care.
Her husband
That's
didn't want
fucking
that.
bullshit.
That's been a
12
new
or 13-year-old
talking point for the left
survivor
that
of
Shags has
incest?
been dealing with.
Yeah, a
They
lot of
call
TikTok people.
Abortion is
Pregnant
any
women?
kind of termination
They
of the
don't
president
want that.
of the
No, it's not.
the pregnancy.
And I pledge to you,
They're changing the
when
terms again.
Congress
Yeah, they are.
passes
Completely
a
different
bill
medical coding.
to put
If you
back
do
in
that for a
place
living,
the
you know that.
protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into
See, Shags,
law.
I pay attention.
But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand,
He's
already said he won't.
Yeah, I know.
There would be a national
Over
He
and over
won't.
and
a
over.
monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think
That's
the
a
American
lie.
people believe that certain freedoms.
This is
in
why a
particular
lot of
the
pro-life
freedom to make
people are
decisions
opposed
about
to
one's
him.
own body
Yes, it
Did you
is.
know that
Should not be
under
made by
Donald
the
Trump
government.
that the
Vice
monitors will
President
be
Harris.
Well, there she
illegals
goes
from
again.
Aurora,
It's a
Colorado,
lie.
monitoring you?
I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted.
Like I said,
Democrats,
take it right back to
Republicans,
states' rights.
and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible.
You
The
know,
states
Ruth
are
Bader
now
Ginsburg
voting.
thought it was a
What
terrible
she says
decision,
is
and it should have
an
been
absolute
administered
lie.
at a state level
And
too.
as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion.
She's
ban,
not their
but
kind
it
of
doesn't
woman, though.
matter Because
No, she's
this
not.
issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you
Everybody make
veto
sure
a
to like and
national
share out the
abortion
stream,
ban if
too.
it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again,
Please.
two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student
Stay on
loans
topic, bro.
terminated,
Come on.
and it ended up being a total
But it's
catastrophe.
true. You're not going to
The
get
student
a
loans, and
national
then
abortion ban
her,
through on
I
either
think
side.
Probably
No.
her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, "We'll do it again. We'll do it a different way." And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court.
I'm
So
kind
all
of
these
curious what
students
Tulsi,
got,
what kind of
taunted
advice
with this
Tulsi
whole
gave
thing
him.
about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost. To the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans,
Tulsi's
they
gonna-
didn't get it
I
for
think
free.
she coached
but they
him
were
on
saying it's the
getting,
same way
Kamala on
that they
being a
talked about
hawk.
that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just
He
get
had
a
no
yes or no,
words.
because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you
What
rightly
protections are
mentioned,
those?
nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to
That
term
almost sounds like a tag
and
team moment that was
asking
planned,
for an
as you
abortion.
rightly
That
mentioned.
is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And
What about
understand
partial
what has
birth?
been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray
Viability
and,
at 24
and
weeks.
dream of having a family
Couldn't
are
even be
being
20
denied
weeks.
IVF
It has happened.
treatments.
A
What
week
is
before birth
happening in
and a
our
week
country?
after birth, that
Working
child is
people,
essentially the
working
exact
women
same.
who are working 1 or 2 jobs,
So-
who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to
A
go
lot
and
of
get
hot
the
air
health care
from
she
her.
needs.
And a pretty controlled Trump.
Barely can afford to do it,
But he's
and
fired
what you
up.
are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why,
Unless it's
in
the
every
vaccine
state
or a
where this
mask,
issue
huh,
has been on
Kamala?
the ballot
Yeah.
in red and blue states
And
votes,
when you
the
say putting her
people
through,
of America
what
have
about
voted for
what you're
freedom.
putting
Vice
the
President
baby
Harris.
Excuse me, I
through?
have to respond. Another lie.
It's not a
That's
real
another
person, so
lie.
who cares?
I have
And
been
what
a
happened to
leader
safe,
on
legal, and
IVF,
rare?
which
Yeah.
is
That's gone. That's
fertilization.
completely
The
gone.
IVF, I have been a leader. In fact,
It's abortion on
when they
demand
got
for
a
any
very
reason.
negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, they
A leader on
Leader on
fertilization may be
fertilization.
something you
will
could
she
take
allow
out of
abortion
context.
in the
but-
8th month,
Indeed.
9th month, 7th month.
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
Mute her. What the hell's that
Why don't you
about?
answer that
Why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Why
Wade,
is her
question,
microphone
you could
on?
do abortions
Oh,
in
he
the
should
7th
so
month,
stop her and
the
be like,
8th month,
excuse me,
the 9th
I'm
month,
talking.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia
Sweet,
said
he
we put
remembered.
the
He got it
baby
right.
aside,
Glenn
and then we
Youngkin.
determine what we want to do with the baby.
It was Ralph Northam.
We're
No,
gonna turn
Ralph
now to
Northam,
immigration
yeah.
and border security. We
Youngkin's
know it's an
after.
issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America.
That's right, border
We know
czar.
that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed
Oh, and
tough
by the
new
way, everybody,
asylum
culture wasn't
restrictions. We
feeling
know
well, so
the numbers
he
since
stepped
then
out for
have
a bit. He
dropped
may be back.
significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did
Yeah,
the
he had a
administration
migraine
wait
yesterday.
until 6 months
Yeah.
before the
I
election
like
to
how he
act?
answers
And
all
would
her
you have done
questions
anything
for her,
differently from
and then
President
basically
Biden on
sums
this?
it up with how do you
So I'm the
feel
only
about
person
that?
on this
That's
stage
funny.
who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations
Uh-oh, here we go.
for the trafficking of guns,
Should we call him a victim?
drugs,
Or
and human beings.
God
And
damn
let
it.
me say that the United States
Convict or whatever.
Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate,
A
came
felon.
up with a border security bill which I supported.
That would have still let
And that bill would have
4,500
put
people a day
1,500
through the
more
border.
border
Yep.
agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It
Not
would
only
have
that, it would have
allowed
entrenched
us
it in
to
law.
stem the flow
Yep.
of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know
And then
there are
there was
so
all
many
the money to
families watching
Ukraine and
tonight
Israel in
who have been
that package,
personally
too.
affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
bull fucking shit.
And understand,
Please
this
have all the
comes
talking points
at a
done.
time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem
Cracking down
instead
on
of
this.
fixing a problem.
Why didn't
and
we
I'll tell
just
you
drop
something. He's going to talk
20,000
about
Haitians
immigration
in
a lot
Ohio?
tonight, even when it's not a
good
subject
point.
that is being raised.
In a
and I'm
city
going to
of
actually do something really
53,000.
unusual, and I'm
Yeah,
going to invite you.
Because
They
Ohio
account for more
voted
than
for Trump by
25%
9
of that
points.
city's
Because it's a
population
really
now.
interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course
You
of
think
his
that doesn't
rallies, he
change the
talks
culture
about fictional
overnight?
characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk
And these
about
people aren't even
windmills cause
acclimated. They don't go
cancer.
through any sort of,
And what you will also
you know,
notice is that people start
indoctrination
leaving his
with the
rallies
country.
early
No.
out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you the one thing you
She's
will
trying
not
to
hear me
bait him.
talk
All right,
about
so that right
is you.
there
You
is
will
they're
not hear him
coaching
talk
her
about
to
your
try to
needs,
do
your
something
dreams,
with
and
his
your
rallies
and your desires.
because Trump
And I'll
never
tell you, I
lets.
believe
He's
you
too New York.
deserve
Any
a
attack
president
on him,
who actually
he has
puts
to
you
address.
first, and I
He
pledge
just
to you
doesn't
that
let
I
stuff
will.
go.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. People
see.
start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in.
Our rallies
and
are
paying
way
them to
bigger than
be
hers.
there.
She's got
And
tiny little
then
baby rallies.
showing them in a different
I've got
light.
big old man
So
rallies.
She can't
You have
talk
to have
about that.
Meg
People
the
don't leave my
Stallion on
rallies. We
stage
have
to
the
get
biggest
anybody
rallies,
there.
the
Oh,
most
she's doing
incredible
Thinking
rallies
Kamala
in the history
again.
of politics.
That's funny.
That's
It's Thinking
because people
Kamala.
want to take their
It's
country
not a
back.
good look because
Our country
psychologically,
is being
when you're
lost. We're a
lying, you touch
failing
your
nation.
face.
And it happened 3.5
Thinking
years
Kamala
ago.
reminds every man
And
who has one
what-
of their
what's
ex-wife.
going on here,
Just
you're
leaving
going to
that
end
there.
up in World War III, just to go into another subject.
That's
what
funny.
they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
It's
They are
funny,
so
but it's
desperate
not a
for
good
this
line
to
of
not
attack.
be true.
there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as the rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured,
There's
or abused by
phone
individuals
calls to the
within the
cops.
immigrant
There's
community.
video.
Well,
All
I've
this-
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
People on
this is a
television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog
Well,
was
I'm
eaten
taking it
by
from people
the
who are
that went
reporting
there.
seeing
I'm
it.
taking it
Again,
from somebody who
Springfield city
lost
manager
spot
says there's
to
no
the
evidence of that.
Eyewitness.
Vice President
We'll find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. You know, this is,
What, you
I
don't
think,
like
one of the
cats now,
reasons why
Kamala?
in this
So it's not cringe.
election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans
Never
who
mind,
have
this is a good line of
formerly
attack.
worked
Get her
with
laughing
President
and the
Bush,
debate's
Mitt
over.
Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney
Holy
and
shit!
Congress
She's
member
trotting
Liz
out Dick
Cheney.
Cheney's endorsement like
And
that's going to
if you
help.
wanna really
the
know
hospital.
Cheney's
the
a
inside
good
track
person.
on who
Yeah.
She needs
the
to
former
win
president is,
Pennsylvania
if you
working
didn't make
guy
it
that
clear
they
already,
demonized
just ask
forever. They
people who have
hated
worked with
Cheney.
He's a
him.
literal devil.
His former chief
Yes.
of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the
I mean,
United
they call
States.
Trump Hitler,
His
but
former
they call
national
Cheney
four-star
the
general
devil.
is a
advisor
piece
has
of
said he
shit.
is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary
You
of
don't
Defense
call China
has
and
said
go,
the
"You're
nation
okay,
of
I
the
won't let
Republic
Trump
would
do
never
that."
survive
No, he's talking about
another
John Kelly,
Trump
not Millie.
term.
Okay.
And
okay.
when we listen
You
to
should be
this
spun up
kind
on
of
Millie. That
rhetoric,
guy- ooh,
when
he should be
the
tried for
issues
treason.
that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Trump.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so
Rightfully
graciously.
so.
They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people.
No, but over
whose-
90% of her
whose
staff
were
quit.
just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So
Correct.
when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the
Another thing that
inflation.
hasn't been
They didn't
mentioned in the
fire
news,
any of their
we pretty
economists.
much
They have
lost
the
the
same
Red Sea to
people.
the Somali
That's a
pirates
good way
again.
not to
They're
have
not
books
doing
written
shit about that
you.
either.
But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control,
I just hope he doesn't name it like
no
Eisenhower did, because that would be awkward.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much
Very
higher.
carefully.
Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door?
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made.
Yes, it is. Don't shake your head. No, it is.
Through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But by
fact-checking him live, we all know it's BS.
Yeah,
they didn't include the worst cities.
Been saying that about Chicago for years.
They didn't include cities with the worst crime.
Yep.
It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich. Coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Oh, here we go. That's what I was looking for. The prosecutor.
National security crimes, economic crimes,
What?
election interference has been found liable.
They're talking about
for
the
sexual
classified
assault,
document case
and
that was
his next
dismissed in
big
Florida.
Court
Yeah, that's
appearance
no.
in November at his own criminal sentencing.
No.
Clinton
and let's
sock
be
drawer.
clear where
I gotta
each
say about
person
that.
stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law.
She's pulling the
and
Obama with
respect
the
for law
let's be
enforcement.
clear.
The
Let me be
former
clear.
vice president called for defunding federal
talk too
law
much
enforcement,
during the, responses.
45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what
paperwork.
is important
let's talk
in this
about
race.
persecuting
It is
your political
important that we move
opponents.
forward,
Which is
that
what
we
communists
turn the
do.
page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses.
She wants to give
address
people
bringing down the price of groceries.
$25,000,
But
and that'll
frankly,
make
the American
housing
people
cheaper.
are exhausted.
So she wants to
with
raise
this
the price
same
of houses
old-tired
in
playbook.
America by
Vice President Harris,
$25,000.
thank you.
Yes, she does.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent, and I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest of the appeal.
We didn't have so many
And you
illegal
saw that
immigrants.
with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them, but those are cases. It's called weaponization. Never happened in this country.
Lawfare.
They
It's
weaponized
also
the Justice
deflection.
Department.
She didn't answer the
Every one of
question
those
about illegal
cases
immigration.
was involved with
right.
the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases, and then they say, "Oh, he's a criminal." They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially
extended the
guilty on the
statute of
documents
limitations
case.
on it.
And what happened in my documents case? They said, "Oh, that's the toughest of them all." A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
I'm glad you brought that up.
They used it to try and win an election.
President
They're
Trump-
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this
No, answer the
election in
question.
2024 is taking place.
I
The
mean,
United
let's talk
States
about
Supreme
extreme.
Court
What's
recently
extreme is like
ruled
when
that
I'm
the former
with Willie
president
Brown
would
in the
essentially
90s.
be
That was some
immune
extreme stuff.
from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly
That's
said
not what they
he would
rule.
terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
What?
That he would
Jen.
weaponize
That's such a
the
lie.
Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has
the Times or one of your friends just
expressed
recently published an
disdain
article about how
for members
the
of our
Constitution is
military.
great, but it might be a
Understand
problem?
what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American
No
people.
one would stop him
Vice
like the
President.
way I
Thank
stopped
you.
Joe
Lindsey?
with the threats
Vice
of the
President
25th
Harris,
Amendment.
in your last run for president.
Weaponized, please.
We gotta
This is the
continue
one
here.
that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about
Yes.
me. They talk about democracy. I'm a
Yes.
threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as
She
Vice
said
President of the United States,
that
and in
she would
fact,
ban
I
fracking.
was the
No,
tie-breaking
what
vote
happened
on the
was
Inflation
Joe
Reduction
Biden
Act,
said he wouldn't
which
ban
opened
fracking,
new
and every
leases
time she
for
was asked,
fracking.
she said, Joe
My
Biden
position
said,
is that
will
we
not
have
ban
got
fracking.
to
She never
invest
said it about herself.
in diverse
Prior to
sources
that,
of energy
before
so
Joe
we
Biden
reduce
was
our
on the
reliance
ticket,
on
she said,
foreign
I
oil.
absolutely
We
would
have
support a bill
had
banning
the
fracking.
largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil.
It's because of
As
all
it
the
relates to my
permits
values,
issued
let
under
me
the
tell you,
Trump
I grew up
administration
a
coming to
middle-class
fruition.
kid raised by a
And
hardworking
wells
mother
being drilled.
who
Why'd you
worked
shut
and
down the
saved
pipeline?
and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to
That's
say
such a
we are
bullshit
going to
argument
work with
they
the
always
private
make.
sector and home builders to increase
you filed
Any
bankruptcy
3 million
entrepreneur
homes,
that does
increase by
as
3
much
million
work as
homes
he
by the end
does
of my
ends up
first term.
filing bankruptcy
My
at some
work
point. That's just
that
the
is
reality.
related to
If you've got 30
having
plus
a
businesses
friend
and
when I
only
was in
6
high
of them
school who
file
was
for
sexually
bankruptcy, you're
assaulted by
doing
her
pretty well.
stepfather.
Yeah. Yes.
And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting
Except the
Social
babies.
Security and
Who is
Medicare
most vulnerable,
is based
Kamala?
on long-standing work that I have done, protecting
vulnerable being the
seniors from
babies.
scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people
This
up
is where he can remind
and not
everybody that
beating
she is a
people
Marxist.
down.
Yes.
And name
You
calling.
need a president
And
who
left a
will
lot of
measure
black
of
people
the
in jail
leader.
too.
Is
You-
the
you just called him a
leader who
convict.
actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be
I'm sorry,
that
you deserve to be
president.
beat down.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I
The
wasn't
strength
given
is- the
400
strength is not
million
with
dollars. I
going
wish
down
I
on your
was. My
knees,
father
it's
was a
lifting
Brooklyn
up when
builder,
you're
Brooklyn,
done.
Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave
Yes,
all that
yes.
stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at
You're
least
laughing at
12
it.
and probably 14
What
or
she said was
15
dumb.
different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went
Yes,
out.
you
wait a
were,
minute, I'm
Kamala. You
talking
cannot
now.
fucking
was
lie.
bailing
You don't mind,
people
please.
out.
Yep.
Oh, he just called her out.
Is
You said
that
that?
familiar?
I'm talking now.
Oh, did you hear me go, does that sound familiar?
Yep.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this.
She's like, I
She
don't
wants to
remember filling out that
confiscate your guns,
ACLU
and she
policy
will never
position
allow
document.
fracking
What are you
in
talking about?
Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing so important, in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar,
hit the national
where
reserves
they need
there,
a whole
too.
desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert soil. These are not good things for the environment, as she understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out in the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home.
But the
tweets,
tweets,
you regret
you
about
did send
what
out
you
tweets.
did
I'm
on
not
that
going to
day?
say what they said,
You
but they
just
said to go home.
a thing that
And
isn't
before they
covered
went down there, he
peacefully
said
and
to be
patriotically. I
peaceful.
said during my speech, not
Go down
later
there
on.
and make your voices peacefully and patriotically heard.
And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her.
And that police
it's
officer
a
could be tried
disgrace.
for murder
But
because she
we
posed
didn't
him no
do this
threat.
group of
Deadly force
people
is
that
not
have been
authorized in
treated
that
so
situation.
badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our
Wasn't
country
even
and killing
looking at 'em.
people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all
Love that they keep the camera on her,
the
though, so you
world,
can
David,
see all of her
all
little
over the
snide
world.
comments
And
from
crime rates are
David.
down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted?
There's the
When are
caption should
people
be
that
coming up
burned
like
down
again,
Minneapolis
ex-wife
gonna be
waits for you to stop
prosecuted?
talking
Or
to
in
yell at you.
Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election.
Dominating
Is there
everyone in-
anything you regret about what you did on that day?
No.
Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And
I
again,
offered
it
you
wasn't done by
10,000
me. It was
National
done by
Guard
others.
troops.
I said,
there's that
I'd
too.
like to give you 10,000 National Guard or
There he goes.
soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have
The
never
Speaker of the
happened
House
if
is
Nancy
responsible for
Pelosi and the
security
mayor
of the
of
Congress,
Washington
by the
did
way.
their
Yep.
job.
And the Capitol
I wasn't
Police.
responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker
Nobody
Pelosi.
gives
But I
a
do
crap
want
what
Vice
you think,
President Harris
David
to
Muir.
respond here.
How about you just
I was at
move
the
on?
Capitol on January 6th.
I left
was
early.
the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there.
She was actually at
And
the
on
DNC
that day,
headquarters where the
the
pipe bomb
president
that
of the
never got
United States
investigated
incited
was.
a violent mob
No, he did not.
to attack
That's a
our
lie.
nation's
What a
capital,
fucking lie.
to desecrate
Like-
our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were
What
injured.
about all those
And some
free
died.
Palestine people who came and desecrated our
understand,
nation's capital?
the
What'd you do about
former
that, Miss
president
Vice
has been
President?
indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was
my
a
God.
mob of people carrying tiki
Exactly,
torches,
Goj.
spewing
Wow.
anti-Semitic
Wow.
hate.
This has been
Which
debunked
party
so many
was this?
times. It's
The
insane.
president then, at the time,
I would
said
actually
there
let's
were
hear the
fine people on
moderators
each
actually
side.
debunk it
Let's
live like they
remember.
did other
Such a
stuff.
dirty,
that when it
dirty
came
lie.
to the Proud Boys, a
Easily
militia
proven.
The president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone
Proud Boys
watching
are
who
not a bad
remembers what
organization.
January
They just
6th
get a bad rap
was,
because of the way they
They're
were-
not a
I
militia.
say we
You're
don't
going
have
to go with
go
suckers
back.
and losers next?
Let's not go back. We're
Probably.
not going back. It's time to turn the page.
No, dude, I want to
And
go
if
back.
that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country,
Really like egg
to
sandwiches, and I can't
stand
have them
for
like I
our
used to.
democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you
Which
don't
is
like
what
the
your
outcome.
party
And
is
be
doing.
clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate,
she make a couple
has said
crocodile
in this
tears here?
election there will be a bloodbath.
Oh,
this
another
is-
He was
talking
is
about
not to
auto
his
And
benefit.
the
manufacturing
auto
industry.
industry, you
Let's turn the
lying.
page on this. Let's not go back.
Back to every
Let's
lie
chart a
into one
course
fucking
for the
segment.
future.
Keri's
and not
over here
go
telling
backwards
Kamala
to the
she'll
past.
see you next
Let me just follow
Tuesday,
up here.
Kamala.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered
Snopes.
it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every
Yeah,
newspaper,
insane.
but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous.
Get
Go
to your
down
point,
to
bro.
Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in
Are
a
we going to
landslide.
ask her any questions
In the past
that
couple
matter
of weeks
to
leading up to this debate,
any policy?
you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically.
No,
You know
but
that.
I'll acknowledge
It was
that
said,
when
"Oh, we
Hillary
lost
Clinton
by a whisker."
acknowledges that
That
she
was said
lost
sarcastically.
2016.
Look,
How about that?
there's so
Stacey
much
Abrams.
proof. All you have to do is look at it, and they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever
Gotta
gotten.
fly.
I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to
By
come
the way,
into
there's
our
already
country.
I did
Trump
watch
leader on
all of these pieces of
fertilization
video.
memes on X,
I
so
didn't
that
detect
didn't
the
take long.
sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
reviewed
judge
my
looked
God.
at it.
and said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
threw
other
it out
thing.
for
They
standing,
said
and
not the
we didn't
same
have
thing.
standing, a technicality. Can you
Yeah, that's
imagine
not
a system
debunked. It was never
where a
investigated.
person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to
wonder how
solve the
long before
problem
the
that we have
DOJ
right
comes
now.
after
That's
him for
old
this one.
news. And the problem that we have right now
He said he'd
is we
show us
have
this.
a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself.
But you're not going to
But I do want to ask you about
the
something
very
that's come
fine
up in the
people.
last couple of days. This was a post from
not gonna correct
President
her.
Trump about this upcoming election just
Finger.
weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted
Remember, the
to the
Time
fullest extent
magazine
of the law,
literally said
which will include
they
long-term
fortified the
prison
election.
sentences. One of your
Beforehand.
campaign's
They
top
wrote a
lawyers
whole article on
responded
it
saying,
that
we
they
won't let
buried
Donald Trump
after they
intimidate us,
realized that
we
they
won't
had
let
said the
him
truth.
suppress the
Yep.
vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to
I
do?
read that article. It was bad.
Donald
was.
Trump was
Highly
fired by
damning.
81 million people.
This is a 3-on-1
So
debate.
let's be clear about that.
It really
And
is.
Clearly, he is having a
Oh,
very
she was waiting to
difficult
use
time
that line, by the
processing
way.
that.
That was one of her
But we cannot afford to have
pre-canned
a
lines.
president
Donald
of
Trump
the
was
United
fired
States
by 81 million people.
who attempts,
Of course.
as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing
But have you
at
been to the
Donald
border?
Trump. I have talked with military
yeah, they're
leaders,
laughing at us
some of
right
whom
now,
work
that's for
with
sure.
you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused.
Oh, let's talk about Joe.
fact.
Oh,
That's
God.
deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
Why
I'll give
is
you
he
1
still
minute to respond, Mr.
president?
President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline.
Then blew it up.
The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look,
Just not in my backyard.
Viktor Orban
Democrats.
said it. He said the most
That's typically how it
respected,
works.
most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you
I
know
don't know.
what? I'll give you a
You're-
little secret.
I
He
think you
hates
are
her.
because you're a
He
politician.
can't stand her.
Sometimes,
But he
Mr.
got
President, world
14
leaders
million
lie to
votes.
each other.
They threw him out. She got 0
So
votes.
if they said
And when
Trump
she
is a
ran,
disgrace,
she was the first
maybe
one
they
to
were telling
leave
you what
because she
you wanted to
failed.
hear.
And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm okay
President,
with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I think
up.
we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden
Randy,
has not been
Trump
able
has
to break
lost
through
his
the
cool,
stalemate.
but at the same
How would
time,
you do it?
people are going to see the
Well,
lopsidedness
let's
of
understand how
the
we got
debate
here.
moderators.
On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now.
And old women and babies in their cribs.
Did they mute her?
I think we lost audio.
There are too many.
There it goes.
Innocent Palestinians have been killed.
Sorry about that.
Children, mothers.
Forgot I have to mute the mic, not
What
the
we know is that
StreamYard.
This war
Yeah, I gotcha.
must end. It must end immediately.
I do
and the
wonder
way
if
it will
she's,
end
you know,
is we
coming
need
out
a
and
ceasefire
explicitly
deal, and we need the hostages
stating the
out.
murder and rape
And so we will
of what
continue to
happened
work
in
around the
Israel.
clock
That
on
doesn't
that.
play very well with
Work
those
around the clock,
protesters.
also
that
understanding that we
continue.
must
They are
chart a course for a
100%
two-state
that
solution.
Israel lied
And
about
in
all the
that
graping
solution,
that happened.
there must be
Right.
security for the Israeli people and Israel.
Yeah, I
and
get
in
heated when
equal
she
measure
talks
for
about the hostages.
Palestinians.
They've already killed
But the one thing I
Americans.
will assure you always, I will
Why
always
why
give
haven't we
Israel
got
the
the
ability
hostages
to
back
defend
already? We
itself,
have
in
the
particular
most
as it
highly
relates
trained
to
technically
Iran
advanced
and
special
any
forces
threat that
in the
Iran and its
effing world.
proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a
And
two-state
you're letting a
solution
bunch of
where we
freaking
can
terrorists
rebuild
kill
Gaza, where the
Americans.
Palestinians
Trying to hear Slender.
have security,
Oh, I'm
I get the point.
self-determination, and the
Sorry.
dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She
Fact.
refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror.
Terror.
They had no money. There was a big
Spheres of
story,
terror.
and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled.
She's like,
and
oh, I should take
fast,
some
and I'll
notes and
get
learn
the
something.
war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life
This is
supported
great. He's
Israel
forcing her
and the
to say, "I
Israeli
love
people.
Israel."
He knows
Yep.
that.
Yep.
He's trying to, again, divide
Dave Landau
and
tweeted that
distract
ABC
from the
moderating this
reality,
debate is like
which
Vince
it is
McMahon
very
reffing
well
a Stone
known
Cold Steve Austin
that
match.
Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one.
He
according
doesn't
to
admire
himself.
you.
Oh my God.
It is well known
Another
that he
debunked lie.
said of Putin that he
Who's got
can
the same
do whatever
title?
the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was
Biden said a minor
brilliant.
incursion is not going to be
It
a
is
problem.
well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is
Little Rocket
absolutely
Man?
well known
Yeah.
that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're
No,
so
they get to
clear.
run wild while
they
you're
can
president.
manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Oh, fuck you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by
Yes.
allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away
That's
with
hilarious.
is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe?
Because somebody's a
Because
puppet,
they're weak
but it's not
and
Trump.
they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid a
Trump,
lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to
Oh,
get
wow.
We'll be
Let's
right
shut
back with
down
much
this
more
real
of this
issue.
historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right. Trump's obviously getting a little bit flustered, but it's obviously a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 at minimum.
Yeah.
In WWE terms, this is a handicap match.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
she has the friendly media. That's the one thing that I think needs to be pointed out, needs to be understood completely, is the fact that the media is on her side and they will do everything they can to defend her while making him look bad.
So I'm going to point out two things that Trump has done actually pretty well to try. This is going to be both sides are approaching this as a base election, which means mobilize your base voters in a higher quantity.
Yeah.
So Trump did two things that are pretty, like you saw, he definitely got coached on this, and this was a point they were trying to do. He's hammered student loans several times. And it's not because he believes that student loans should be. He's making people remember that they lied to you and said it would be forgiven, and it didn't. So they were lying. And then he did. He just goaded Kamala into saying that when he said she hates Israel, it would be gone.
Yep.
That hyperbole was to get her to say, which she
that
did.
she loved Israel.
I do love Israel. I'm going to support it, because the wackadoodle people who were protesting the DNC, the ones who wear the scarves like they're, Yasser Arafat, they will not, as soon as you say anything pro-Israel, if it leaves your lips, you're persona non grata.
They will crucify you.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of calculation in what Trump's doing, even behind the bluster, because he's specifically going after the one demographic that in polling is the highest margin for her, which is the under 30s. These are the things that are going to cleave off, not because they're going to go vote for Trump, but because he's going to get her to say things that make them not as excited, so they don't show up.
Yep.
I
think,
just,
Keri, what's your feeling?
Oh gosh, I just feel, this election, I don't trust the presidential elections. He's spot on about all the fishiness that happened in 2020. We haven't been allowed to talk about that. You get your video pulled for 4 years on YouTube if you even ask questions about it. And now they've relaxed those rules on YouTube because they want to be able to question the results if they don't fortify it enough for her. I just have a very uneasy feeling about what's going to happen. And also, one thing that stands out to me immediately, when he's making points about the Keystone Pipeline and everything, like he's talking to people who are at least somewhat educated on the issues. She's talking to a cult. And she's talking to normies who feed off of propaganda mainstream media. This is the dumbest, like the people that she's talking to, it's the dumbest presidential candidate I could imagine, who's just up there repeating propaganda and falsehoods and platitudes and anecdotes about women, but nothing substantial. You don't have to know anything to follow her and to be like, I think she sounds great. I don't know. I'm just very angry.
Yeah. Like Randy said, I mean, all she had to do was not fall on her face tonight.
Yeah.
So far, she's kind of accomplished that. Shags, what are you thinking so far?
I think Trump needs to avoid hyperbole. He does it a lot, and it doesn't really work in his favor. He rambles, and I know that's part of his thing, but if there's one thing he's got to work on, it's just like trying to stay as pointed as he can with his responses. I mean, I see all of her responses. It's all canned, just like, I hear it on TikTok.
Yes.
Like these things are like, they clip things out of context. They speak them as like actual truth. And it's like, these things are easily looked up. The thing about eating the cats or the dogs or whatever, that was a really big mistake on his part. Like that's been debunked. Even the Aurora thing, like I was looking up the Aurora thing a lot. It's true about the gang being present in the U.S. and it's a problem. Them taking over places. Yeah, them taking over the places in Aurora has been misguided. I've looked at both news outlets. So again, he's got to be careful where he goes because people are really keeping an eye on him. And this debate is obviously meant for her to look good. And then, but for people who are like really looking into these stories, she is just repeating things that have already been debunked. The whole Charlottesville thing was a huge.
Oh, that was
the worst thing she could have done.
Yeah, but her base still believes that. If
Yeah.
it is a base election,
Well, yeah,
they
most
still
people who
believe
don't
that.
pay attention are going to believe that, despite the fact that it has been done over and over again. Most normies that are in the cult or passively pay attention or still believe that it's
Ukraine. We're now
real.
2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him?
I like
Why? For
they
what
respect
reason?
your president.
He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy.
President.
Try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become
I think
president.
Trump's been
If I
hanging
win,
out with too many
when
of
I'm
these young, like,
president-elect, and
streamers.
what I'll do
Oh,
is
it's
I'll
your
speak
president
to one,
coming
I'll
here
speak to
live.
the other. I'll get them together. That war would
Got
have
that one
never
from Theo
happened.
Von.
And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people
That
dead,
is a fun
and it's
nickname
only
that I will
getting worse,
remember
and it
in
could lead
private
to
and
World
not to
War
say on
III.
YouTube.
Don't kid yourself, David.
I might have gone
We're
with
playing
douche
with
canoe.
World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president?
You ever heard
We
that
don't even
before,
know
Chad?
if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign
This is
like a
moderators
dog. We
to
don't even
Trump.
know.
Why are you
Is he our
bad?
president?
Moderators to
But
Harris.
we have a
Why is Trump so
president
Mr.
bad?
President.
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S.
What is
best
a win?
interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives
They're
from
leading
being
Trump
destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts
Policy
on
almost all
support
night.
for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different
Need
from
to
what
get
we're
back
seeing
on
from
policy.
President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Same thing.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here.
Yeah, because they did so good with Afghanistan.
Met with Zelensky
Yeah.
a few days
That's
before
who we are as
Russia
Americans, apparently.
invaded.
When they just gave it
tried
up?
through force to
Yeah.
change territorial
And
boundaries,
hundreds of
to
billions of
define
dollars
one of
worth
the
of
most
military
important
hardware.
international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and
And
territorial
lives.
integrity.
Holy shit.
And I met with
One of
President
the most
Zelensky. I
important
shared with
rules
him
and
American
norms is
intelligence
sovereignty,
about how he could defend
as these
himself.
borders are.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through
about the border?
work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense.
with you.
And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that
The
we
nuclear
have
capable
provided.
missile systems
Ukraine
that you
stands
put in
as an
Ukraine.
independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand
No,
what that
he
would
never
mean.
would have
Because
invaded.
Putin's agenda
Exactly.
is not
It would
just
not have
about
happened.
Ukraine. Understand
It
why the
didn't
European
happen.
allies and our NATO allies
I do remember when
are so
Putin took
thankful
Crimea
that
when
you are no
Obama was in
longer
office.
president,
Just saying.
Yep.
and
Yep,
that
that's
we
true.
understand the importance of the greatest military
And
alliance
Georgia,
the world
when
has ever
George
known,
W.
which is
Bush
NATO.
was in office.
And what we have done to preserve the ability of
It's
Zelensky and the
interesting that her
Ukrainians
main
to fight
argument
for
is,
their
listen, I
independence.
know the American
Otherwise,
people aren't happy
Putin would be
that we're
sitting in
president
Kyiv
right
with
now,
his eyes on the rest
but
of
everybody
Europe,
else in the world
starting
is
with
really
Poland.
happy
And why
about
don't you
it.
tell the 800,000 Polish Americans
Pinochet,
right here in
Pinochet has a
Pennsylvania
good,
how
good
quickly you
thing.
would give up
I'm
for
sure
the
a lot of
sake
those
of
javelins
favor
are not
and
magically
what
going
you
to get
think is a
used in any
friendship
terrorist action
with
after
what is
being
known
sold
to
on
be
the
a
black market at
dictator
all.
No,
who eat
definitely
you for
not.
lunch.
Right.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please,
It's his turn
I'll
to
give you a minute here.
respond.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men
Yes.
and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow.
Shut up,
boy.
silly woman!
See, what's
But
nice is he
eventually,
didn't
he's
even
got
look
a
at
thing
her
that
when he said it.
Other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever
This
thinks
is where
about
Tulsi
that.
coached him.
And eventually,
I wanna
maybe
see
he'll
his
use
next
him, and
rally.
maybe
He's
he
gonna-
hasn't been
he's gonna
that
tear into her.
threatening. But he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should
Yes.
have never started. She was
Yes.
the
Yeah.
emissary. They sent her
wars
in to
under Trump.
negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later.
She's
And
the one
that's
who
the
couldn't
kind of
control
talent
herself
we
with
have
the
with
mic.
her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let
She
me tell
goes
you
down?
something. She
Yeah,
is
I
a
noticed he
horrible
emphasized those words.
negotiator.
I was wondering
They
if it was
sent her in to
subconscious.
negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
Oh.
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should.
I didn't meet
As
with
a
Putin. I only
leader
met with
upholding
his
international rules and
you know,
norms. As a
Minister of
leader
State that
who
was
shows
responsible for
strength,
negotiating.
Understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president
The entire Cold
who
War,
understands
we allied
the
with a lot of
significance
not
of
nice
America's
people,
role and
specifically because it was in the U.S.
in
interest
terms
to
of
do so.
ensuring that
This
there
is
is
a bad line
stability
of
and ensuring
argument.
we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the
But
debate.
that is policy,
and we
telling
witnessed
NATO
a
that they
poignant
have to
moment
pay
today
their
on
share.
Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died
Yeah,
in the chaotic
yeah.
withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Absolutely,
Well, I will tell you, I
do.
agreed with
I was the last
President
in the
Biden's
room.
decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day.
Let's not
we were
forget they
paying for that
delayed the
endless
Afghanistan
war.
pullout
And
so
as
they
of
can
today,
get it close to
there is not
9/11
one
so they can
member
make
of the
Biden
United
look
States
good.
military who
Yep.
is in active duty
I would gladly
in a
pay
combat
those
zone
taxes
in any
for the
war
rest of my
zone around the
fucking
world.
life
The first time
if
this
it meant we didn't
century.
lose
But
13
let's
soldiers.
understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
Yeah, because let's be
ones that you
honest,
put in
who was
charge.
running?
The Taliban
Who's
getting
running
5,000
Afghanistan?
Yeah,
You
the
negotiate
Taliban
with who's in
terrorists
charge.
Yeah,
released.
who runs
And get
Murder
this,
Town?
No, get this. And the president
When
at
he
the
negotiated
time
to end the
invited
Vietnam
the
War,
Taliban
Nixon,
to
get
Camp
this,
David,
negotiated with the North
a
Vietnamese
place of
instead of the
storied
Vietnamese
significance for
government.
us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States
Yasser
to be
Arafat's been at
commander-in-chief
Camp
with a
David
level
and negotiated
of respect.
at Camp David.
And this gets
There's
back
nothing
to
Yasser
the point of how
Arafat
he has
did
consistently
that is in any
disparaged
way
and
less than
demeaned
what the Taliban
members of
was
our
doing.
military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do
No,
to
that all
uphold
gets
the
conveniently
strength
ignored,
and
obviously.
the respect of
But
the United
this
States
explains
of
why she
America
won't meet
around
with
the world.
Netanyahu.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time,
Oh, is he
the
going to do
Taliban
the
was
picture
killing
story? I love
our
this story.
soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul
statement.
is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months,
Sounds like he's
we
making
had
fun of the
no
guy.
one killed. We
Yep.
did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move
And
on.
these people
It's
did
called
the worst
condition-based
withdrawal.
If you wanna move
And
on.
in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
What Trump
thank you.
negotiated was a
I want to move on
condition-based
now to race and
withdrawal.
politics
Yep.
in this
And
country.
they did
Mr.
not
President, you
fulfill
raised
the
the
They did not
condition of Vice
fulfill it.
President
And
Harris.
then they
quote,
ran-
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she
I knew
happened
it
to
was
turn
coming.
black.
Yeah,
and now she
here
wants
comes
to
the
be
race
known as
politics.
All
black.
right, no, he's got
I
to
wanna ask the
pivot to
bigger
just
picture
her being
question here tonight.
inauthentic.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she
Good
is.
answer.
I don't care.
Yep.
You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out.
First Indian
And
senator.
I'll say that. And
Or
then
female senator?
I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me.
Did he
That's
say
up
he
to her.
read that she put
That's up to
out?
her.
Yep.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
Not wrong.
I
That's
think
fucking
it's
hilarious.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American
No.
people.
No.
Really?
You know, I do believe
Obama?
that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what
Says
separates
the
us. And we don't
DEI
want
hire.
this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land, he owned land, he owned buildings, and he
What does that have
was
to do with anything?
investigated because
They're going into
he
that.
refused to rent
Yeah.
property to
real
black
estate.
families.
He was
Remember, this is the same
he was
individual
accused of redlining when he was
who
a
took out a
landlord.
full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young
Randy, I
black
get your
and
point,
Latino boys who
it
were
is unfair
innocent,
moderating.
the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the
Didn't they
same
rape and murder a
individual
woman?
who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people
I know the full
want
page ad
better
you're talking
than
about.
that.
That was a big story.
want better than this.
They murdered somebody.
Yeah,
Want
there's a
someone
woman
who
in Central Park.
understands as I do, I travel our
Yeah.
country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each
He
other.
also endorsed Jesse
I meet
Jackson,
with people
best
all
friends
the
with
time
Oprah.
who
Probably
tell
seems like a
me,
race baiter. But
can we
I mean,
please
she sent him
just
a
have
letter that said they
discourse
should run for
about
office
how we're
together.
going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people, knowing that regardless of
Oprah used to
people's
love him.
color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris.
That's weird. She didn't slip
President
into her
Trump, this
black
is now
scent
your
at all.
third time.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of
Didn't
funny.
code switch.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the
there we
gentleman,
go.
she says.
Good.
She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly,
No
I am
fight
not
that we
Joe
have to move
Biden,
on to her, though.
and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism
Unburdened by.
about what we can do
What has-
instead
by
of
what has
always
been.
disparaging the American people.
She
I
called him a
believe in
felon a
what we
couple
can
times
do
already.
to
She did.
strengthen our small
But we don't
businesses,
disparage.
which is why I have a
Well,
plan.
she started
Let's
out
talk
calling him a
about
liar
our
right off
plans
the bat.
And let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's
Copying
life,
what J.D.
to
Vance
help
said.
you in that most critical stage
I'll
of your
give you
child's
money for your
development.
votes.
I have a plan.
Yep.
That
That's
is
how it
about
works.
It's at least 3
allowing
times
people
she's
to be able
offered
to pursue
money for a vote.
what has been fleeting in terms of
Notice
the
how she hasn't
American
mentioned
dream
the
by
not
offering
taxing
a
tips.
help with down
No,
payment
she
of
hasn't.
$25,000 down
Also another
payment
Trump
assistance
policy.
for first-time home buyers.
Trump
That's
should
the
bring
kind of
that up.
conversation I believe, David, that people really
Give
want
people
to
$25,000 to
as
buy a
opposed
house,
to a
the house
conversation
goes
that
up by
is constantly
$25,000.
about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris.
forward.
Thank you. Let's turn to
Lead by
policy.
example,
We
then.
have to move on. President Trump.
Oh yeah, that'll make the house bubble
She has
burst.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump-
the
President
former
Trump-
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond to.
I'm
These
sorry,
moderators
we're gonna
suck.
move on, Vice
One
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace
is
the
your
Affordable
7th
Care Act,
presidential
also
debate.
known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare would be dead if not for McCain.
Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration.
Fantastic
we read about
people.
The bad ones. We had some
Very
real
fine
bad
people.
ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be,
I'm
or
gonna
do
make
I
it
let
great
it
again.
rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive.
But he
And
made
there are
changes to
concepts
healthcare,
and options
like
we have
revealing
to
pricing,
do that. And you'll be hearing
reducing the
about
cost
it
of
in the
insulin, right?
not-too-distant future.
These are all things that
Vice
he
President
did.
Harris, in 2017, you
he
supported
reduced the
Bernie
price of
Sanders'
insulin
proposal to do
originally.
away with private
Right.
insurance and create a
Before
government-run
Biden
healthcare
got
system.
rid of it, then
2
brought it
years
back
later,
saying
you
it was
proposed
his.
a plan that included a
But
private
he
insurance
required
option.
like
What is your plan
services like to
today?
be
Well, first
essentially
of all, I absolutely
surprised to see them.
supported
You know?
over the last
They've
4 years
just
as
never
vice
actually
president
done it.
private
Right.
healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this
Why'd you
stuff.
say there was going to be a buyback?
As it relates to the Affordable Care
She's
Act,
a liar.
understand,
She
but
has
just
said
look at the
assault
history to know
weapons
where
ban.
people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times
Gun buyback?
he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time.
one of those times
When
he'd have
I
been
will never
successful.
forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an
he
American
ran
hero.
on getting
The
rid of
late,
that
great
act.
John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto
then
the
voted
Senate floor
against
and said,
killing it
no, you don't.
because he didn't like
No,
Trump.
you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable
Got
Care
off
Act.
of
You
his
have no
deathbed to
plan.
vote against it.
And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability
Oh,
of
I'm sorry.
insurance companies
Nothing
to
against
deny
his
people with
service.
pre-existing conditions.
But
I don't have to tell the people,
the people who
watching
voted
tonight. You
him into
remember what
office
that
were
was
betrayed.
like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma?
Now an
if
insurance
someone was
company
a
doesn't
breast
have to
cancer
deny 'cause your
survivor,
deductible is
if a grandparent had
$30,000.
diabetes.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
No, they
thankfully,
split a lot of entire
as
regions
I've been
because
vice
they're not going
president,
to
and
offer
we, over
coverage
the
there
last
anymore.
4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act. We have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices.
Like where the
on
train
behalf
derailed
of
in Ohio?
You, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate
Oh, yeah, and
drug prices.
a
He
man
never did.
couldn't
We
do
did.
anything about it
And
because he
now
was
we have
on
capped the cost
maternity
of
leave?
insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of
It's not
those
a
who
right.
can afford it.
Healthcare is
The
not a fucking
plan
right.
Not a
has
right.
to
Paying
be
for it.
to strengthen
somebody's
the
paying
Affordable
for
Care
it,
Act,
it's not a
get
right.
rid of it.
Yeah.
Fast as
President
pro
Harris,
law
And seniors
in
already
terms of
have
where
access
Donald
to
Trump stands on
Medicare.
that.
I wanna
The
move
rest
to
of
an
us are
issue
having
that's
to pay
important for a lot of
Obamacare
mistake.
pricing.
Yep.
At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money.
Yeah.
but she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and
wants
made
everybody to
money,
become
and they
reliant
want to
on
have
government
private. She
healthcare.
wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have
She
another
also
issue that
literally
we'd like to
said
get
3
to
days
that's
ago that
important
she
for a
would take
number of
away
Americans, in
assault
particular
rifles.
younger voters, and that's
Yep.
climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said
I
that
object to
climate
the
change is
premise
a
of the
hoax.
question.
And what we know is
Yeah.
that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been
Oh, I can go all
the
off
victim
on
of
that.
what that means in terms of losing
That's true,
their
'cause the
home,
insurance
having
isn't
nowhere
at
to
all
go.
impacted by
we
other
know
things.
that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as Vice
You
President
fill their
over
head
the
with
last 4
lies.
years,
Specifically,
we have invested $1
and
trillion
Rama knows this,
in a
all the
clean
areas that
energy
are prone to
economy, while
hurricanes
we have
aren't
also
private insurance,
increased
pretty much.
domestic
They're
gas production
government
to historic
mandated run
levels.
Yeah,
We
flood
have
insurance
insurance
created
programs.
across the
over
country
800,000 new
is
manufacturing jobs
government.
while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing
Open up
jobs.
factories
He
around
lost
the world.
manufacturing jobs.
How about in
And I'm
America?
also proud to have the endorsement
We have some
of
great
the United
cobalt
Auto
mines as
Workers
well.
and Sean Fain, who also know
about those
that part of
800,000 plus
building a
jobs you
clean
said you
energy
created?
economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing
I don't want an American
what we
So
can
all the
do
things he
around
said while he
American
was president
manufacturing
and was doing.
opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or
Does he
South
bring up the
Carolina
Elon
or
Musk
any other
endorsement?
place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
All true.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Okay. I don't think Slender and Bride got to say where they were at during that last break. So do you guys want to start off?
I can start. Bride has been getting up and walking away a lot because apparently the things she is hearing are pissing her off too much to sit here, and she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to dominate this panel like they're dominating the moderators. But I mean, I wish Trump would get a little more concise and hit policy a little harder. He's taken the bait a lot tonight.
Yeah.
And it's getting a little frustrating. Meanwhile, I'm taking the bait because every time Kamala Harris talks about the military, I get furious. Like, I get so angry. And Trump has done well on that front. Like, when he starts talking about some of the military blunders over the past few years, he's done very well. But he's taken the bait every time she launches an attack or says something he doesn't like. And unfortunately, she's not the only one laying out bait. There's 3 people laying out bait right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Comix, I don't know that you did a full turn last time.
It's full turn in regards to what? Just like my opinion on
Just
the debate?
How it's going? What do you think?
I mean, I agree. I think he's taking the bait a little too much. Like the whole thing with what was it, the rally comment or whatever that comment was
when she made fun of the rallies.
Yeah, that was dumb. I think the main thing is he needs to focus on the topics, right? The policies that, basically she finally, I mean, how long has she been the candidate for the Democrat Party at this point? A couple of months now?
60 days or so.
60 days, yeah. I mean, and she hasn't released a single policy until last night?
And it was copy and paste from
Yes, and
Joe
it was
Biden.
basically exactly what we've already seen from the Biden administration. The funny thing about it is that she's been trying to talk about, or they've been trying to talk about how to get her to distance herself from the Biden administration, which it's very apparent that she is very much rooted in. And it should be very apparent to the American voters based off this debate tonight that it's going to be more of the same with Harris. If you don't like what's been going on under Joe Biden, you're getting exactly the same thing and probably a lot worse. I mean, we've talked about very briefly about the gun grabs that she's wanting to do. We've had a U.S. senator or congressman. I don't remember the guy's name. We played the clip last night. And they were directly asking him, do you support basically gun confiscations? And he refused to answer. Same thing here. She refused to answer the gun confiscation thing. And they know that as soon as they disarm the American population by having mandatory buybacks, they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yep. As we were talking about yesterday, the Second Amendment enforces all the others.
Yes, it does.
Especially the first, which really affects us a little bit.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything to say while we're still at commercial break? Thoughts?
My cynical side, somebody in the chat, Jonathan, said, I don't think she'll get a bump from this. But my feeling is it doesn't matter if she gets a bump. They just need the sheep to believe that it's possible that she won. Yep. And I think the sheep are going to be very pleased with this debate tonight and talk about how it was an amazing debate and she stomped him and oh my goodness, she's definitely on track to win. They're totally going to believe it when it happens.
The exact same thing with Biden, and it was very clear that he got trounced. And they're like, "Oh, Joe Biden did so great; he defeated Donald Trump." It's like anyone who watched the debate knew otherwise. But
I mean,
whatever.
If you want to go the official, Frank Luntz would be the official sheep talking head. And so they're already prepping that.
Well,
Trump
I plan on us watching a little bit of CNN and MSNBC afterwards just to hear what they have to say on that side.
Yeah, I think, this is just, they're going to paint it away again in my sphere of commentary where I spend a lot of my time. It's rife with clips that they can use to make Trump look silly. But, someone in the chat said, and I agree, like he is his biggest in
he's his own worst
enemy.
enemy.
Yeah. Like it's unfortunate, but he's not wrong. It's just a lot of times he doesn't know how to get that stuff out all the way. And it's not helping that he's taking the bait, as we've all said. It's kind of hard to watch, but he's not wrong.
I don't think he's had a bad debate. We just really expected her to fall on her face, and he hasn't forced it yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of been middle.
Two very
I don't think anyone's
different
moved.
visions for our country.
All right, let's
one that is
listen to
focused
the
on the
whole
future,
closing statements.
and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families.
Opportunity economy? What the fuck does that even mean?
What we can do around protecting seniors. What we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including
Just listen to the rhythm
respecting
of my
our
heart.
military, and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world.
Screw
I will be a
you.
president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
Unless it's a vaccine.
I'll tell you,
Unless
I
it's a
started
vaccine,
my
of course.
career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
And you haven't done
I
very well
never
with that one
asked
client.
a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay?
Because I was in San Francisco, so I knew.
And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans.
That's
and
what Joe
focus
said.
on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been
Finally.
there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline.
This should have been stated
We're
so
being
much
laughed
earlier.
at all
Yes, it
over the
should have.
world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our
And they
country,
sold it
and
off.
maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
All right, that is a wrap on the Harris-Trump.
We'll mute that. I will. How many of you guys can stick around for a little while?
I can stick around.
For a
I don't have
post-debate.
much going on tonight.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're good.
And they're playing Black Myth Wukong at the moment, so.
Oh, is that the controller sounds?
Yeah.
You do have to button mash a little bit on that one.
Yeah,
for,
especially
for
I'm trying to beat
combos.
that big blue baby thing, and that thing is like eating my lunch, man.
Like in the first area?
Yeah. Dude, it's like I got to the point where I almost beat it, and he freaking I had like a sliver of health life and of life left, and he fucking took me out.
Go kill the other boss first. And
I
you get
did.
Stuff that'll help you. Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So yeah, Punk Waddle, good closing remarks. I think that was way too late for him to start really hitting her on why haven't you done it already.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are still watching the debate once you get to the closing statements.
Yeah, that was a mistake on his
That's
part.
the biggest issue, I think. I'm not fully discouraged by how it went tonight, but it definitely, there's going to be issues from it. Poly market, Trump's already down 3% just during the debate.
On the plus side, debates don't usually matter.
They don't
honestly.
usually, but after you watched a candidate get knocked out of the presidential race just a couple months ago, I mean, everybody was tuning in for this one. 65% said that they were very likely to watch tonight. Another 17 or 18% said that they were likely to watch tonight. This was appointment viewing tonight.
Yeah, but
and
you got it's still the Electoral College. She
I know.
might have run up better margins in California. Did she do anything in the debate to move the needle with the working class voter in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, or Arizona?
Right. I don't think she did. All she did was not fall flat on her face, which was all she had to do, because they will still carry her in the media for the next 60 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's the sad part of this, is all she had to do was not fall flat.
Yep.
And they will get it done for her.
Yeah.
But
yeah, this
that
is
doesn't
kind of a
mean it's
draw.
over either way. I'm not saying that.
I'm the downer because I think it's been over since they installed her. I just again, I don't trust the election, and I think they just want to make the win somewhat more plausible than if they had kept Biden in there.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just where I'm at. But so I guess more on like a big picture thing. She did what she needed to do, which is to make the cult and the people who are low information voters and just kind of pay a little bit of attention to think that this is that she was a great debater, and that she won this debate, and that she's very likely she could win the presidency, and that's all she had to do. And in terms of if she does have a strategy of how she's appealing to people, it's definitely like people in the chat were saying, she's appealing using emotion and anecdotes and appealing to women. And it's none of it is about policy or facts or truth or knowing anything about what's going on in the world. The people who are cheering for her tonight know nothing about what's going on in the world. So it's just kind of I don't know, it's depressing to watch.
Yeah,
someone cheer me up.
But I mean, the thing is, he did not do bad.
That's
it was
true.
just that the bar was so low for her.
Yes.
And that's partially all of our fault too, a little. Well, all of it, everybody who's commentating on it. But I mean, the scary thing is, we won't hear another thing from her for the next 60 days. There will not be another debate.
No.
And there will not be a sit-down interview.
No, there won't.
She got through the 2 tests that she had to get through to not look like a blithering moron. And that's disappointing. But he also spoke to the people that, I mean, we all know that the economy matters. And the economy is crap. People still are feeling that. That is the more important thing than almost all the rest of the policy put together. Is people were feeling good under Trump as far as the economy goes. They may not have liked him. They may not have liked some of the other stuff, but the economy was strong.
Yep.
So,
and that's what matters, because a lot of people have lost their
elections.
jobs over the last 4 years as a result of the COVID policies, as a result of the bad economy and the Biden administration. I mean, I've been unemployed for almost 2 years. I would say not quite yet. Obviously, it'll be 2 years in April. And the fact that I can't find a job in an industry that was supposed to be, relatively bulletproof tells you how bad things are.
Yep. And Randy, I pretty much agree with what you said. We didn't do a whole lot of pre-work on the on what we were going to say might happen or forecast might happen, but the whole point was for her to never get on the offensive and to keep her on the defensive all night, and he wasn't able to do that. So that is,
in Trump's defense,
that is a little bit of a fail, but he was fighting 3 people.
Yeah, in Trump's defense, she never put him on the defensive. The moderators put him on the defensive.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement too. But I mean, the reality of it is how it's going to be portrayed tomorrow and for the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
And the reality of that is, I don't know that anybody can say that Trump decisively won that. I think that they can say she decisively won because, again, the bar was so low.
Debates are always about expectations. It's whoever has the lower expectations usually wins, because all you have to do is show up with a pulse and you can win, which is how it's normally been. But as we talked about on our normal Sunday show, historically, with very rare exceptions, debates don't actually move the needle. They really just reinforce what people have already decided.
Right.
In this case, I don't think it's gonna be as big. This isn't gonna. I saw someone on Twitter, Will Chamberlain, and I think it's an accurate one. This isn't the June debate. It's not gonna stay in the like news cycle for weeks. This is gonna be a normal 48 hours kind of news cycle because it'll move on. Tomorrow is 9/11. It's gonna, in addition to debate footage, there's gonna be ceremonies and things going on related to that. There's a lot of stuff that'll just come up, and I still stand by the fact that there's the distinct possibility of the economic black swan event sometime in September that's going to really just come out of nowhere, because when the Fed probably decides they need to do a 50 basis points reduction, and that doesn't really do anything to help as job losses start piling up, there's distinct possibility of a 2008 style economic bloodbath, to use Trump's term, and then everything goes out the window. Then you're talking about like massive sweeps again.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to look for Toxic Man Flu's Rumble rant that he sent. I can see it on Rumble. I'm having trouble finding it in StreamYard. But we'll listen to a little bit of what they're saying over on CNN. Our favorite.
Oh, no.
Should be
how
fun.
to grapple with somebody who is going to possibly
And feel free
be
to argue with them
bombastic,
all you want.
petulant, defensive,
no longer the
and
debate.
have a derailed effort. She focused on all of those things. I saw somebody who, when she came out, allowed me to reintroduce myself. My name is Kamala Harris. On behalf of Kamala Harris, she came out with that in mind, and I think she executed. Now, Donald Trump tried to derail her a number of times, but notice I'm saying the words Donald Trump in the way she did. It wasn't President Trump. She was referring to him as similar as you would in a courtroom. The defendant.
Notice how I have a lack of respect as
under
well.
his title, reminding you of what, how did she phrase it? What he left us with. It was a really dramatic performance.
So Anderson, I mean, his lack of parrying, his lack of
there's a lot of disingenuous talk when it comes to like the transfer of power in like from Trump to Biden. Like no one ever likes to talk about how we're in a pandemic. Like it was totally
I know.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris did tonight what no
because any
governor,
president, if
senator,
you shut down the country, is going to lose all those jobs.
That's the big thing that look at how many jobs I created. It's like, dude, it was the fucking pandemic, man.
Wait 1 second.
Has figured out what no one else figured out how to do. Certainly Marco Rubio didn't figure it out by going after little hands.
She's the first one that's ever beaten him.
I want to show just some key
This
moments.
is going to be their.
where
I just
she
wanted to hear that
needled
because that's going to be their line.
on the
She
most
beat
sort
him,
of
and she's done what
obvious,
no one else has
basic
done.
things
That's
that we all
what they're
know
going to be
he has
saying
said.
tomorrow.
We all know are weak points. To
They need to watch out saying that. Hillary's still around. People can
Let's
get
talk
yeeted
about
if
what
needed.
Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health
You left everything shut down
epidemic
for
in a century.
over a year after he
Donald
said we should
Trump
open everything
left
back
us
up.
The worst attack on our democracy since the
So no,
Civil
Donald Trump
War.
didn't leave you that.
What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan.
You shit in your own bed, and then he said, "Well, you got to
explode
sleep in
the
it."
deficit.
Yeah,
I'm going to actually do
pretty much.
something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really
All right,
interesting.
Tox,
thing.
I apologize. I can't bring
You
it
will
up on
see during
screen
the course of
because
his
I think
rallies,
after
he
you
talks
changed
about
your
fictional
name, it
characters
erased
like
everything
Hannibal
back
Lecter.
here because
He will
I've
talk
been
about
through the whole chat
windmills
and can't
cause
find it.
cancer.
But
And what you will
Toxic
also
Man
notice
Flew for
is that people
$5
start leaving
Rumble
his
rant side.
rallies
After this
early
debate, all I
out of
know is
exhaustion
Comix
and
Division is still
boredom.
gay. Oh, and
And I will
Trump
tell you, the one
debating
thing you will
Kamala
not
was a
hear
huge
him talk
mistake.
about
He
is
needed
you.
to stick
If
to
you
the
wanna
podcasters
really
and forget the
know
mainstream
the
media.
inside
Kamala
track
won
on
this.
who
The only reason why I'm
former
gay, Tox, is
president
because you
is,
say I'm
make it
gay. Nobody
clear
else
already.
fucking cares.
Just ask people who have worked with
Thank you for the Rumble rant, Tox.
John King, it was the moment she talked about his crowd size.
That's all they could find was that.
Crowd size. It was
Yeah,
people being
after you
bored
signed
and
out,
leaving his rallies
Tox,
early.
there's nothing
think
from
he
that
ever-
account.
Oh, what's up, Brandon?
showing-
He was-
Sorry.
he started
What's up,
shouting,
Brandon? How did
and he
the
never
live blogging go?
She was uneven at the top.
It
Not
went.
a bad answer. First
I was
answer,
watching
not
most
a
of it.
Great answer. She got her footing.
What
very
were your overall thoughts?
where she felt more
I
comfortable.
gotta
and
tell
then
you,
she
I think
triggered
Trump
him
could have done
with the
better.
people leave your rallies.
There were definitely
And he lost
moments
it,
where
and he was angry.
it
From that
felt
moment
like
on,
they
his
were
voice
getting
went
to
up,
him.
He started angry. He told them a lot of lies. Daniel Bell's
He
going to be up all night.
got
He started
emotional. I felt
GoFundMe
like a couple times.
for his
Emotional for
espresso
Trump,
machine.
but you could tell by the way
went
he
in,
was
did.
talking,
And
like
so
he
what did
was
she do? She
forceful.
triggered
His
him on
voice was
COVID,
raised. It
January
was a
6th
little bit
democracy,
higher in octave.
abortion, chaos.
I felt like in those moments he was really kind of lagging. And he should have been a more calm presence, a more confident presence there. I do think that he was getting slightly rattled by the fact that they kept rushing him, and that
3-on-1.
yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
the fact that the moderators kept jumping on him and not on Harris, which I think was very obvious to everyone watching that was happening,
including the very fine people hoax.
Oh, yeah.
They would
did not call that out. Yeah, 100% should have called that out. Never did. So I think that, yeah, definitely people saw that. I do think, though, that said, I think that Trump did a really great job of defending himself on most occasions. I think that Kamala Harris had way too many moments where she really drew blood. And I feel like a lot of what she did was repeat herself a lot about, you know, how Trump is the past and we need to move forward. And, you know, she's all about, you know, they went with the joy angle there, you know, with the, love and sunshine and happiness, despite the fact that she has a 92% turnover of her staff because of rumors of abuse and anger. And honestly, I'm pretty sure she just lost that. I wouldn't say that she lost it big, but she was definitely not the winner there.
No,
that's funny. It's kind of, we've kind of gone back and forth already since the debate ended. I don't know that she lost, but I don't know that she.
Can we point out
we've
our own
said that the
blind
bar
spot
is
here?
so low that all she had to do is not completely fall flat, and she didn't do that. So I think they will take it as the win.
So yes, that is true, but here's the thing. What did she, like I said earlier, what did she actually do to draw blood from Trump there? You know, you have to think about the echo effect that's going to come from this debate. So they're not going to have too many instances where she really stunted on the guy. You know, however, there were definitely moments where, I mean, memeable moments. In fact, the run spot run moment is going to be replayed, and that's the kind of meme-worthy stuff that's really going to get people's attention, that people are going to remember. Did Kamala Harris have any of those moments? No, she did not. So whenever you really kind of project out a timeline from the debate, I don't see Kamala Harris having more fuel in the tank to carry her into like with more approval than Donald Trump did in this debate.
I think what it does, Brendan, is it like everything she brought up is stuff that people just echo anyway, so it'll make them louder, like like that, again, girl boss energy type thing, where it's like it's gonna make the minority people louder. And by minority, I mean like the loud minority progressive left like type people. And that might contribute a couple points to her. I don't know if it's, but it will seem that way. And again, CNN will lean into these clippable moments where she dunks on him with all this stuff that, again, easily debunkable.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it right now, but I mean, like the one thing that we've learned is CNN and MSNBC can do this all day, right? But at the end of the day, it's the stuff that goes viral around the internet that I think truly kind of gets into people's heads.
Yes.
Which is why I'll give you a perfect example. You know, what has the internet been talking about nonstop lately? Haitians and cats.
Cats.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I've got people texting me, what's the cat thing for? What's the cat thing about? That's going to trigger a lot of people to investigate. And when it does, they're going to be like, that's horrible. You know, that's going to lead them to investigating. Well, you know, who can stop this? How do we stop this? Well, Trump has.
So to speak to what Shags was, because that came up earlier.
Hold on just a sec, Chad. We've got to get Keri and Shags out. So hold that thought, and let's. Keri, do you want to do your outro?
Yeah, just thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. And I just want to say happy birthday to Brahma. And I got to see him in person yesterday. My husband and I have been on the road for about a month. Oh, look at the pen.
Yeah, there's more hair on me now.
Anyway, you guys can find me at Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'll be back to my regular shows starting on Friday, I believe. Thank you guys. Good to see you, Comix and
Hey, it's good to
Shags.
see you
And
too, Keri.
hey, Lil
First to you.
Chad and Brandon and Slender Bride. Okay, and Bride. I'm taking off now.
see you,
Thank
Keri.
you.
Thanks for hanging.
And fight, fight, fight.
Exactly.
Fight, 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 indeed.
Shags, what do you got coming up?
Oh man, I don't have much like scheduled. I'm just constantly engaging with people on TikTok. I've been kind of making that my shtick lately and trying to engage in some debates with people across the aisle. I find it somewhat productive. I know the brain rot is difficult for some people to watch, but it has been fruitful for me in some respects.
That's good.
Yeah, I hope you didn't mind me piping up a whole bunch in your stream during that research stream.
No, that was the point of it. I've been doing live research streams to like help like combat some of the lies that the left puts out. A lot of the pro-life stuff, a lot of the election stuff, and all that. Just listing the points out because, again, I think it's important people are informed properly. And even myself, sometimes I learned something that I didn't realize, or maybe it was the opposite of what I knew. So, but yeah, find me over on YouTube, youtube.com/the Shagsworth. I'm on X as well. And yeah, I play games too sometimes, but thank you guys for having me. Brandon's good to see you, Lil Chad, Slender.
See you.
And Comix.
Thanks for
It's
coming
good seeing
on.
you too,
Thanks for
Shags.
hanging out.
Take care, man.
Shags. Have a good night.
Yep.
All right. Chad, you were
So
gonna make
what
a
I was going to say, because Shags was talking earlier about debunking, right, the cat and the Haitian stuff. But this is one of those things, like it's like the famous political question, what you never want to have to say. Like the question is like, when did you stop beating your wife? Like once you put that into the ether, it's hard to get away from the image. So even if it's debunked, like even if they try to fact check, like CNN's going to be running stories about the 20,000 Haitians who moved to Springfield, Ohio aren't eating cats. You're still covering that 20 to 30,000 Haitians were just moved into a city.
Have been dropped in Springfield.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where the air they have to give that is going to, again, speaking to the places where the votes matter. Like Kamala can run up the score in California as much as she wants. She can run up the score in New York as much as she wants. But what matters is Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. And none of the things that happen in the debate with her girl boss moments are necessarily going to move the needle in any of those places where her biggest deficit was in the rural white working class, which Tim Walz was supposed to help her with, where she's now spending the debate talking about my values haven't changed. I always said that I was going to support fracking.
Right.
Which is a load of shit.
Yeah. So
My
I don't know.
very based daughter asked, wasn't there a video of it about the ducks and the cats?
I know there's the picture of the guy
There's the
carrying
video, the guy carrying the duck, and there's video of the lady complaining that her cat was killed.
I know there's police reports too.
Police reports and phone calls.
Well,
to
the other thing too is like, wasn't there like a video of like New York where they literally have a woman who was roasting cats on a spit?
Yes.
I mean, that was actually a thing. I saw that video and it did not look like, it either looked like a small dog or a cat. This was not like a
but the
pig
fact
or
check is
anything
that
that
wasn't
would
a
eat.
Haitian in Ohio. That's what they'll
Right.
say.
Because
Fact
they're
check
also
false.
avoiding the Nicaraguan illegals that shot the bald eagle.
Yeah.
I mean,
They released a statement. The Harris campaign released a statement about the debate.
Are they claiming victory?
Oh, absolutely. Donald Trump was totally incoherent. He was angry and rattled, and it all began when Vice President Harris held him accountable for his record overturning Roe v. Wade and harming women nationwide. Trump refused to say he would veto a national abortion ban. He again said he had no regrets over January 6th, and in case you missed it, through the countless lies he rattled off on stage tonight, Trump offered zero plan for the everyday needs of Americans, saying he had concepts of a plan. That's because the only actual plan Trump has is Project 2025, which would raise costs for the middle class and take America backward. This isn't. First off, I actually thought that Kamala Harris did not do well on the abortion section. I thought that would be her strongest place. It ended up not being, in my honest opinion.
right. And I think that's why we let off with it.
Yeah.
Also, can we point out a blind spot that this is our own blind spot, right? We're like, oh, Trump got rattled. Trump took the bait. Trump got frustrated. She did too. Let's not forget that, because I'm
she's
sure
the
the
one who
media is going to
kept
forget
trying to
that.
interrupt.
She
on
kept
the
trying to
mute mic.
interrupt. You could see her making snide comments while she was muted, rolling her eyes. Like, she was rattled too. They'll never talk about that, but she was getting pretty frustrated.
She was.
Also, great news, guys. Taylor Swift just came out for Kamala Harris.
Ooh.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yay.
Yeah, they were holding that on purpose.
Oh, yeah. That was...
Couldn't get her to go to the convention, but now you get the...
it's an Instagram post. I bet they paid...
Well, it's not just that. Taylor Swift was getting roasted for hanging out with Brittany Mahomes again at the New
for
York
hugging
Open.
Brittany.
How
Hugging
dare
a
she
Trump
touch
supporter.
someone so unwashed?
Yeah.
Unity. We're all going to move forward together. I'm going to be everyone's president.
I honestly think the Taylor Swift thing is more because her own fans were going after her for Brittany Mahomes stuff.
Probably, yeah.
I would say that it amazes me that the left does not understand the whole abortion issue, but it really doesn't amaze me anymore. I don't understand how they do not understand what it means that Roe versus Wade was overturned and sent back to the states. That is not a national abortion ban. That is, now you get to vote for it in your state where you live.
And they win.
And they just
even
can't
wins in
seem
Kansas.
to understand it. They don't understand the way the country works. It baffles me, honestly. I mean, that's as basic civics as you can get.
Like, that actually puts him one step further away from being able to do a federal abortion ban. Like, if he hadn't repealed Roe v. Wade, you're that much closer. Federal control has already been exerted in the abortion sphere.
Coach,
Now you
I
just
understand
gotta
it's
change it.
deliberate on the political class, but it's every Democrat you see in any interview, even on man on the street interviews, does not understand what it means that it went back to the states. And
And again, they're manipulating. I'm pretty sure the Democratic Party, like the elites, understand what it means. They just don't care because this is their wedge issue.
Yeah,
this is their wedge issue since, I would say the 60s, 50s. I don't know. I mean, when it's been their wedge issue for a very long time. They don't want to solve the problem. They've had every opportunity to go and solidify Roe v. Wade in this country, and they never have. They could have done it under Obama when they basically owned the presidency in both houses of Congress.
Yeah.
But they never do because they want the fucking wedge issue.
Allegedly, the Harris campaign is now asking for more debates.
Really?
Good. Take him. Do it, please.
Well,
They
no,
must
I mean,
really
yeah.
do. They must really think that they did.
They think they did great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which tells me that I think that they actually have. I mean, they probably have a lot of people in their ear right now telling them how great they did versus Trump, and I think they're getting a little overconfident because
I agree.
Yeah,
They-
because
they-
they forgot that they've been hiding her for 60 days.
Yes.
There's that, and I mean, like, let's not pretend that Trump's not going to learn from this experience for one,
Oh,
but
he
also,
will.
yeah. But here's the other thing they need to remember. I think they're just hyped over the fact that they did a much better job this time around than the last time around, and this is them like getting a little overexcited, like, oh my god, we didn't fail. Maybe we should do
Yeah,
this.
we
again."
didn't suck.
Yeah, exactly.
But if there's more debates, it's not going to be the same moderators and it's not going to be the same network.
Yeah. Put it on, get Fox News since she bailed on that one already.
Yeah, that was supposed to happen the night that he did the town hall. That was supposed to be a debate.
Yep.
The other thing that there's no way to really account for this, because I brought it up a couple times while it was going on, is how the visuals are going to count. And Kamala had coach gestures and looks, and I don't know if
Mixed
you
in
guys
with
agree.
uncontrolled emotions that
Yeah,
she could
but
not stop.
like when she was doing thinking Kamala,
Right.
when she was doing, I mean, Brandon, you weren't here earlier, but I called it like, that's ex-wife face. That's like the ex-wife
That's so
staring you
good.
down, waiting to like that should be the meme. Like,
That's
with the split
fantastic.
screen when she's doing that, someone should put in your ex-wife waiting for you to be done talking.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
That's so good. That's so good.
yeah, so the visuals could end up backfiring because the area where, here's how I put this. Her advantage is with women voters.
Mhm.
And women voters are very women. Here's a headline: women don't always get along with other women.
Yeah,
And so,
big shock.
so yeah, so she might reinforce the like hardcore leftists, but like that persuadable group is going to look over. And the question is like, for like a suburban mom who's married, like that component usually votes Republican around 52-53% versus like 47.
Yeah.
Does that move the needle with them thinking, oh, she's the mom in my group I don't like? She like when she shows up to the birthday party, we're all like, oh, Kamala's here, right? Like, is that visual gonna? Because you know, and if
well, remember just a couple of months ago, they were trying to tout her as the like the drunken aunt. She's a party. She's fun.
You know, she's the fun aunt, the funt. She's the cool aunt. You know, the
that sounds similar to something else.
Yeah, it's that was the one funny line I got of the entire time. What's her name was doing Kamala Harris on Saturday Night Live. It was like,
yeah,
I'm the fun aunt, the funt. I'm the cool aunt, the. Oh, you almost got me on that one.
Oh, you watched Saturday Night Live. That's sad.
I watch clips. That's all we ever get. Clips and memes, mostly of Sydney Sweeney's appearance the last few months.
So what do we think the polls look like Sunday morning?
Oh, the polls? They're going to swing probably 3 points plus Kamala.
Well, we've seen Polymarket already do that tonight.
Yeah.
They're going to have response bias. It'll be response bias. The people who like Kamala will be really excited to get polled.
We'll be gunning to
It's going to be...
It's
going to be, though, in my honest opinion, there's going to be a Disney reaction here. With every Disney release, there's usual this hype, and like, oh, there's a Disney release, and then they find out that the product is absolute shit, and then it just kind of drops. I think that that's probably what's going to end up happening. I think that as more information comes out and more of her foibles are exposed and her talk is debunked, you're going to see people start to lose excitement. So yeah, I do agree. I think you're going to see a spike for Kamala Harris. It's going to be, she did great. And then as people start to wrap their heads around it more, you're going to see the Disney dip occur.
So trying to think, is it worth doing more debates? Because every time she has seen a spike in the polls, she has come right back down to losing in the polls. Right. What other bumps can they give her in between now and then, unless we do agree to more debates?
I mean, a Fox News town hall would be disastrous for her. So it's all in the format, right? Like anything where she has to deal with people asking questions she might not know are coming is going to be, that's where Kamala gets awkward, right? Is when she has to interact with humans, where she doesn't have a coach who has trained her in body language and position to be empathetic and relate. And so that's the only style debate, if I was the Trump camp, that I would be trying to get done, because Trump is usually pretty good at being empathetic and speaking to the person who's talking to him. We've seen that when he does town halls. So outside of that, there's no real needle movement that's going to help either side by another one of these, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to do any debates unless she has friendly media.
Oh, absolutely. There's no possible way.
Toxic Man
Elon
did
offered
Rumble
to
Rant
actually
again.
Hold a debate between the two. I would love to see that.
That's not going to happen.
No, but I would love
Toxic,
to see.
before you read it, I just want to let you know I'm only gay for you, buddy. Despite what I said.
And we're actually on StreamYard tonight, but since it's coming in from Rumble, it doesn't star anything. Toxic Man Flu for $2 says Trump is starting to look like the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean,
feel like
they are
Morse.
They are 1-0 right now. I mean, if you were saying the New York Giants, then that would be more accurate. But
I don't think he knows that you're a Giants fan. He knows Brandon is a
don't put
Cowboys
that
fan.
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
I was going to say, Tox, don't put that evil on Trump right now, because here's what's going to happen if you do. Trump is going to do really, really, really well, and then for some reason he's just going to trip at the finish line. So
how about we put Kamala Harris's face on the Madden cover, and we'll see how that goes. Because, by the way, Christian McCaffrey already out.
Oh, no.
Is he?
He missed the first game, and the rumor is he has an Achilles injury.
That guy is never healthy, and I don't even watch the NFL.
No,
anymore.
Christian McCaffrey is like NFL MVP. He puts up ridiculous stats. He missed one season when he was in Carolina because it was Carolina and he didn't want to play for him, so his injury kept him out of games. But since he's been in San Francisco, he's played.
Do you guys want to watch a little bit of CNN, see what they're
Sure.
saying?
Sure, why not?
Might as well.
All right.
Nope, there it is.
She says she's doing it because Harris, quote,
Well, I
fights for
mean,
the rights and
obviously
causes I
she loves to
believe
eat cats,
need a
so
warrior
that's
to
why she's
champion them.
holding
I
it.
think she is steady-handed, gifted
I mean,
leader,
if
and
you
I
put that
believe we
picture
can
up in
accomplish so much more
Springfield,
in this country
Ohio,
if we're
it's
led
a
by calm
new
and not
restaurant
chaos.
opening soon.
I was so heartened and impressed by the
much.
selection of running mate Tim Walz, who's been standing up for LGBTQ.
She was
The
impressed
fat
by
Siamese and the
IVF and a
chicken
woman's
chow
right to her own
mein.
body for decades. She goes on to
You
say,
know
I've
what
done
this
my
actually
research, I've
tells
made
me
my
right
choice. Your
now?
research is all
What's that?
yours to do.
They're
Interestingly,
desperate to
she
get away from
signs
the,
it
from
with
talking
love and
too
hope,
much
Taylor
about
Swift, childless, cat lady, an
about the debate
allusion
right now.
to Senator J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate.
Yeah, that was pretty
insulting
quick to bring that up.
Democrats,
Right
That was
away.
really
as
quick to bring that
childless
up.
cat ladies.
And she was holding a cat
I'm gonna
in
tweet
that
that out.
photo.
The name of the
that she
cat
was-
I've been
Night, Texas
reliably
Chief Lady.
informed is Olivia Benson.
Olivia, well, one of her cats was Olivia Benson. I cannot confirm.
Are we
the
going to be
cat she
talking?
was
They're
holding
spending
in that
time
Was
talking about the
Olivia Benson.
names of
It
Taylor
is-
Swift's cats.
is
Well, the reason why it was
But
Olivia
I
Benson is because it was eaten by a Haitian.
guarantee you we will hear.
She
from
named
many,
her
many
cat
Swifties
after
out there. But
after
let's
the
just talk
Law
about
and
what
Order
this
SVU.
What does it mean? What is the significance of a celebrity
guess.
endorsement?
Mariska
It's not just a
Hargitay's
celebrity.
character on
One of the
Law and
biggest
Order
celebrities in the
SVU.
world.
The biggest celebrity in the world.
Now,
But
here's
it's
what
not
I'll
just
say.
that
This is
she's a
something that I agree with a
celebrity.
lot
She
of
has
people is
people who
when you do
are,
really well at
I mean,
these things,
like
they'd be showing video
Swiftologists.
clips
There are
constantly.
people who are young people,
Like they'd be
young
showing the
women
clips of
who
her
might not
owning
already
Trump.
be engaged
They're not
in,
showing any
in
clips.
politics.
Yeah,
They're just
who
talking about it.
Taylor Swift.
Read
I saw
and
that
listen
tweet,
to
Morse.
every single thing that she says.
Well,
and love
who's
her.
got the guts to
And
give it some
if she
RTs,
makes
you
a
know?
difference
I
even
will.
on the margins in a race like this, that is
Don't
a
I
huge
always?
difference.
Yes,
this
you
was
do.
this was the endorsement
God bless
that
you.
the Harris campaign.
I try.
They were hoping for.
Hey, everybody,
more
bride's
than
going to bed.
anything else.
No one
Night,
will
bride.
ever say
Thanks
no
for
to
being
the
here.
Night,
Taylor
bride.
Swift
Night.
endorsement. I 100% agree with that. I think it's significant to all. It is always significant to have the most powerful force in pop culture on your side. The one contrarian view I will say is that in this moment, the thing the Harris campaign needs perhaps the most is to figure out how to reach men. They've got to figure it out here in Pennsylvania. They've got to figure out how to reach black men. And
That's
she's
true.
not
Taylor
reaching
Swift
black
is
men.
known
Helps
for
them with
her
that. It's
huge
a totally different
blackmail
ballgame that Taylor Swift is in,
Yeah.
but you've got to
Fan
figure
base.
that part
Now,
out.
Travis
But this
Kelce
is something
around
I've been
the other
talking
day.
about for a
Maybe
while,
if
though,
Travis
and it was
Kelce
something that
comes
I noticed
around,
MSNBC and
we'd be having a
CNN
different
brought up
conversation,
multiple
but
times.
I think that
The
it's just
Democrat
important to
Party's
remember that,
connection to
especially
men
in
is
this
abysmal,
Commonwealth of
and they
Pennsylvania,
have
that is,
zero way
that is just
of
it's
attracting
a
men
give and
to the
take
party
here,
right
where
now, which has
you gain
become
some and you lose
Why
some,
would
and
they
one of the
attract men
biggest
to the
killers.
party? Because they literally hate men.
The
Well,
gender-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Exactly.
the gender
They-
gap when you get under 30 is even more dramatic. Like
Oh, absolutely.
the
Gen
male
Z boys
male
are
males under 30 are 20 points more conservative. It's like
Well,
yeah,
and-
it is insane.
And
But I mean,
I
like,
know the
You
man,
got the over 50s who some of those guys were hippies and still are. So
and I know the man on the street interviews. I mean, you can edit them, to make it do whatever you want. But I have not seen a single black man on a man on the street interview say that they were for Kamala Harris or that she was black. They're the ones completely denying that she is black in any way. They're like, no, hell no.
Yeah. It's oh man.
We know what CNN's going to say. I'm actually kind of curious as to how Fox News is trying to spin it.
Research about Tim Walz, the governor, and his work.
Can we go to that?
Are we more interested in that?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, let's see what both sides are saying.
Because I'm wondering if they're trying to spin it more than, we're not spinning it. I think we're trying to be kind of honest and saying, yeah, that was rough.
100% the perception game is going to be for Kamala winning this debate. The problem is perception of who wins a debate. Like Mondale won the first debate against Reagan in '84, but he won 49 states. No way that debate ever mattered to people who were voting.
So the first thing we saw on Fox News is the moderators were putting their fingers on the scale.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how you can argue with that in any way.
Well, you can't. I mean, that's reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not helpful that we're on the Hannity show now, because Hannity is such a shill. Wait, Tox voted for Mondale? Good for you, buddy.
Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2. Remember, folks, when things get bad under Harris, go take Tox's stuff first, since he is just going to lay down and give up. Sassy Southern Belle for $2 on Rumble. Yes, a singer knows foreign affairs and economics so well.
Yep.
Toxic Man Flu for $5 on Rumble. It's over, Pinochet's helicopter tours. The Germans have bombed Pearl Harbor and they are eating our pets. And you will eat the bugs. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up. And we're using StreamYard tonight and it's not showing up, but it may be because StreamYard still hasn't integrated Rumble rants. It's not even showing up as a regular comment talk, so I'm sorry I can't show them. But thank you.
Fact-checking constantly, kind of trivialities by President Trump, but didn't, as far as I saw, they didn't fact-check Vice President Harris a single time. But you're
there
right,
were
Sean,
11
the party
fact
that I
checks
grew
of
up in
Trump,
doesn't exist
0
anymore. The
of
party
Kamala.
Robert Kennedy and John
Correct.
F. was a party
That's
of
the
That's got to
official
be
count that I have
embarrassing
seen.
for the Kamala Harris
resisting
administration.
the
Kamala
corporate subversion
Harris,
of
Kamala Harris
American
campaign.
democracy. It was
Like
the party of
absolutely
civil
embarrassing.
rights and constitutional rights, particularly censorship. Very opposed to censorship and surveillance. It was the party of protecting the most vulnerable.
See, I can
people in
show
our
these.
Society,
Just can't
including
show the Rumble rants.
particularly children. Today, the Democratic Party is the party of war. It's the party of censorship. It's the party of surveillance. We saw Dick Cheney and John Bolton endorse, along with 255 neocons, endorse President.
And for the
Vice
people who are
President
here,
Harris
if you haven't subbed yet, I would
They came
appreciate
out
it.
of
I'm
exile,
only,
where they were
well,
sent
before
after
the
the
stream, I was
Patriot
only
Act.
like 10
Were
away
sent
from
after the
being
war
at the
in Iraq,
500 to
biggest
get the
foreign
first level of
policy
monetization.
debacle in
So
American history. And they're not
help a brother
endorsing
out.
Vice President Harris because they've changed their minds. They're endorsing her because she represents their worldview. More censorship, more war, more surveillance, and less liberty and constitutional
You learned
rights.
a lot in the course of your campaign. They talk about democracy in peril, but everything, the entire force of the Democratic establishment, if you will, they just went in for the political, death of your campaign. They did not want you to get to.
Well,
they didn't want you to get a first base. They didn't want
that's
you
the
on the
other
ballot.
That's the other thing, is that they've abandoned democracy. The Democratic Party is now about centralized control. It's about losing faith in the demos.
I need
the
subs
people,
on YouTube and
about
viewing hours on
abolishing
YouTube,
elections,
but
abolishing
I'm
our
always
ability
fine
to
with
hear different
Rumble,
points of
and
view, to hear
especially
dissent.
your Rumble rants, Pinochet.
In
Thank
my
you.
case, of course,
That
they
Doug
got rid of
Imhoff
the
right now
primaries.
going,
They
Kamala,
literally
you
abolished
did
many of
so
the primaries
good.
so
You
that
answered
President
all
Biden
the
didn't have to debate me.
Let me dip in. I guess Kamala's at one of her watch parties or something. I don't know what she's saying. Let's just dip in for a second.
And let me just say that I think we all know that tonight was a night that highlights something that you all have been working so hard on. We have folks here who have been knocking on
Don't
doors.
like having to hear her voice again.
There's that cackle.
Yep.
We have a lot of work to do, okay? And tonight, I think, highlighted for the American people what's at stake. I started the debate by talking about it, and it became apparent, I think, throughout that about an hour and a half.
She's had a few drinks by now.
So obviously she's going to go out there and her team. The thing that I learned about her tonight is, you know, being hidden away for days and days and days on end. You can learn your rehearsed
Bring that up.
lines.
That's great.
And it doesn't
No, I think
matter
it's
if you
funny
tell
that
the
they
truth,
bring
'cause
that
she wasn't
she's
fact-checked.
hiding.
She told a lot of lies
Yeah,
about
but she
Trump
went
in
to the spice
2025,
store
lies about
because
mandatory gun buybacks,
her vice
which she did
presidential
support,
candidate doesn't understand what
lying about
spices are because
fracking,
he's a
lying about
white
national
male.
abortion ban that Donald Trump
Yeah, white men
doesn't
don't know what
support.
spices are.
And
He
Never
can
mind,
find her
Agent.
Doritos,
You know,
though.
it's hard
He's
when-
good at,
when
on
you've got
take
3
two,
on
after
one
her
like
husband
that.
already got her a bag,
That's
he
what I
can
expect. We're now,
get her a bag
she's
of
been in this
Doritos in
campaign
a
50
sheets.
days. We only have 56 days till election day, but early
There
voting,
is-
for example, I've been
I
pointing
see
out
some
tonight
people
starts right
posting,
here, 1 week from tonight.
conspiracy
There's a lot of
theory number
information
one on the debate.
about her
If you
stated
compare
views and her
Kamala's
own
answers
words that
to
people
the
don't know
main
about.
questions
What would you
versus
advise
the
what people
follow-up
do?
and
That was
rebuttals,
the most telling part of the debate to me.
they're
She
basically
didn't
arguing that
fact
it's
check
pretty
on the
clear
first
she had the
question.
questions
Are
in
Americans
advance
better off than they
because she
were
had
4
fully
years ago?
prepared
There's no
answers
Feels like it.
on the initial
that you can
questions, but
use
when she had
to
to
make
think
that
on her
case.
feet is where she got like
And she was allowed to then
flustered
go
and had
give this
issues.
kind of
And you could
biographical
tell, like when
sketch of
when
herself
she was actually
without ever asking.
reciting
Ooh, I know
something
this
in
one. I
practice
saw
when
it.
she was making it up on the
Today,
fly. It's
we have double
really
the
easy to see
inflation
that.
that we had
Yeah,
under
she got
President
real
Trump.
excited when the question
Hang
was
on
one that she
second.
already knew
President
was
Trump
coming.
is in the spin room, and let's listen in. Do we have audio of that?
Foreign trade was everything, and I think it was the best debate I've ever personally that I've had.
We all hope so, Pinochet.
Mr. President, speak louder. 88 to 11.
Get closer.
A lot of great polls that just came out. Phone polls and lots of other polls, but you see the polls. A very important debate. Now she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight, but I don't know. Why wouldn't you look at her?
Why would you want to look at her?
Yes, she's ugly.
60%,
Easy answer.
71%, and 89%.
Where are you getting these numbers from?
Very good. But beyond the polls, I felt very good. I had a good.
Is the
Interesting that
cameraman
Trump-
shaking his head no?
Country, so negative
For real though,
things, what
like
happened,
dude,
they
shoot the
built up.
cameraman right now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And the boom mic operator.
I think it needs to be said, Trump just waded right into the line while Kamala Harris was speaking this speech full of his.
Well, I think it did, but people said.
Oh yeah.
I didn't catch the last part of what you said, Brandon.
I think it's interesting that Trump waded right into the lion's den and is clearly in hostile territory, while Kamala Harris is on a stage full of her own supporters, safe and sound.
Yep.
Right. He doesn't care. He'll talk anywhere.
Yep.
No, I thought the moderators were very unfair, but it basically was 3-on-1. But I thought they were.
At least he admitted it, or
Everybody did.
basically brought it up,
Despite that, they're saying that.
because it's true.
Well, and we all commented on the first debate with Biden that the moderators were actually extremely fair when we expected them not to be. These moderators went directly at him, fact-checked him only. I mean, it's kind of like complaining about the referees, except you know the NFL is rigged too.
Dude, who is this bitch just shouting questions from the distance?
Probably the female moderator from tonight.
The worst poll that we've had was 71 that I see. 71% are like.
Mr. President.
I do find it interesting. When I was at the Tucker and Tulsi thing Friday night, the internal polling from the party is showing a much bigger lead for Trump than the actual polling is showing. And the internal polling tends to be the internal polling from the Republicans and from the campaign is showing a much bigger lead for Trump than what the actual polling is showing. And the internal polling tends to be more accurate. That's why you see people drop out of races and whatnot, because they have actual real type numbers, not just calling up random people.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, we can't
Yes,
really hear a
one-man
lot
show.
of it.
Everything's
I've
rigged
just
these
been told
days.
President Trump may
Sports
make his
are
way
rigged.
over
They
here
all
and
are
join us
involved with
live, which would
gambling
be
sites
great.
now.
But first, we
Elections,
have the
we obviously
free state
saw
of
were
Florida
rigged in
Governor,
2020.
My Governor Ron DeSantis is with us. Governor DeSantis, great to have you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, Sean. Good to see you.
You know, you kind of had your own little version of a kind of big moment debate with Gavin Newsom, which I thought was a lot of fun for me to be able to be a part of and moderate. These debates are interesting.
Why is everything with Hannity always about him?
Because Kamala Harris and
he's an
cliches
egomaniac.
and no questions about
I used to like him when he was the heir apparent
positions
to
any one
Rush,
person
but
has
he's
ever
gone
taken in her life.
so crazy it's not
and
funny.
that to me is a failure of ABC. I think they're the biggest loser of everybody tonight, and they did a disservice to the American people. Because there's so
Don't
much
disagree
that
with
they
that.
did not ask her that we need answers to. Do you still support the Green New Deal? That would destroy capitalism. Do you still support, government-run health care for all? It would eliminate private health insurance. Do you still support, free housing, health care, education, and sex change operations for illegals? No fracking, no drilling, defund, dismantle. I mean, there's so much there. I'm at this point getting frustrated.
I think this is the first time I've seen DeSantis since he pulled out of the race.
Yeah, he's been pretty scarce.
Right. I mean, there's way different
Yeah,
ways
he's
you can
been
moderate.
sticking
When
to
CNN
Florida
did the debate
stuff.
with Biden and Trump, I'll give Dana Bash and Tapper credit. They asked questions. They got out of the way. They were substantive. They really weren't biased. And for CNN, I think a lot of people were surprised. This one.
Oh, he was talking
they
about the
only
other
asked
one.
the
Okay.
Follow-ups to Donald Trump to try to pin him down. They tried to fact check him, but fact checking him on things that he was right on, like some of the late-term abortion laws in some of the liberal states. Donald Trump was right about that, and they incorrectly fact checked him. They never fact checked Kamala Harris. She repeated lies like the Charlottesville fine people hoax and other things. Never called her to account. But you're right, Sean. From the very first question, she was asked, are Americans better off today than they were 4 years ago? She did not answer the question. She started rambling on about growing up in a middle-class family, which I'm sure is nice, but that doesn't answer why you have been in power for 3.5 years and Americans are worse off. They did not pin her down and ask follow-up questions on all her flip-flops. She acts like she's always been a big supporter of fracking, never addressed her open borders past. And so, yes, it was a 3-on-1 debate. It was disappointing that she didn't have her feet held to the fire by the moderators. They went out of their way to try to do that to Donald Trump. But I think people that take away from this debate, even with all that, Donald Trump is the candidate that's going to change things. Kamala Harris is the candidate that, as President Trump said in his closing statement, she's been there 3.5 years. Why hasn't she fixed any of these problems during that time? She does not have an answer to that question.
For $2 on Rumble, Toxic Man Flu. Hakeem Jeffries 2025 tees available at comixdivision.com soon. Still going with it.
Hakeem Jeffries doesn't become president in the event that there is no president elected. It is a vacated office until the House of Representatives elects a president.
Oh, Tox has a very elaborate way that it could
But
happen.
it's not how we've done this before in the country. It's happened before. Just saying.
He thinks it's going to happen next August.
They were hitting Trump on
Next August.
Knox has gone to all caps. It's going to happen, damn it.
Wait a second. So our theory is that somehow next August Trump wins.
From the right. She took more liberal
They
positions
removed
as
Trump from
president
office in August.
than Bernie Sanders
Let him
did on a
manifest.
variety of issues. And yet they acted like that wasn't even worth bringing up.
And yet somehow
especially
J.D.
as
Vance,
she's trying to
by the
present
way,
herself to the American people.
How
as
did that
someone
even
much different
we're
than the
skipping
US
president
senator
and
who
vice
took all
president to get
those
Speaker
very
of the House?
left-wing positions, whether it's abolishing private
I'm
health
still
insurance,
confused.
whether it's abolishing fracking,
You'd have
or
to see
whether
the
it's
It's kind of a meme at this point with Tox and Hakeem Jeffries.
sex change operations for illegal aliens.
Not to
You've
mention,
gotta be
in
kidding
the
me,
event
and yet
the Speaker of
they
the House
never
assumes the
broach those subjects
presidency
in a
on a
serious
temporary
way.
basis as a result of incapacitation
All right,
of the
Governor
president
DeSantis, we
and vice
appreciate you being with
president,
us.
they are
Joining us
all
now is
president
RNC co-chair Lil
temporarily
Trump. There's a
until
chance I think your father-in-law is
the
maybe
new
as
Tox
one
well
doesn't
armed.
care
He
what the
can get rid of
Constitution
mob.
says. Don't bother him with details.
Yeah, where are you reading this
Okay,
from?
you watch the debate. Let's get
Okay,
your overall view.
I mean, I know what he's getting at. It's the idea that if it ever becomes such a contentious election where they can't certify the election, basically Congress can choose the president. This is something that was brought up in 2020 because there was this dude that was in Utah that was running for president, and they're talking about this guy could potentially be president if it's deadlocked and there's nobody gets enough votes and whatnot.
In the event that happens, the way the House of Representatives votes on the new president, because you're right, they would just vote whoever they wanted, is on state delegation, not based on members of the House. It's the majority of each state gets the vote for the person. It's not individual members of the House. So if there's 14 congressmen from Pennsylvania, the majority.
You suck all the fun out of this conversation.
I'm sorry, because, like I said, it's my background. I know this.
Yeah,
it's not how it works.
I'm just letting you know where he's coming from.
Yeah, because I believe the Republicans still control like 26 or 27 state delegations, so they're not voting for Hakeem Jeffries.
Currently, the Republicans have more delegations in the House.
Come on,
I don't know. Is there
Brandon,
anything else
from
you
Red
guys...
State, you got to support me having legit knowledge. I'm kidding. Get in there. Tell Tox he's being crazy.
He's just an editor. He just looks at commas and colons.
All right.
All I do is look at colons all the time.
Yeah.
Colon after colon.
Bang ass pound colon.
That's interesting. That's something you and Kamala in the 90s had in common.
Hey-o. Fantastic.
All right. We've been going almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I got to take off myself.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Brandon?
Hold on to your butts because it's going to be a roller coaster. Like I said, Kamala is going to get some popularity off of this. I don't think she's going to have enough momentum to keep that popularity. I think that the next debate that comes up, Trump is going to learn what he did wrong here, and he's going to fix it. And I don't know if Kamala is going to have anything to come back with other than more word salad and the same old that she brought here. I think it was very clear that she actually didn't have much.
Yeah.
And so that's why she kept referring to things that were already debunked and things that were, a lot of fear mongering. Let's face facts. It was a lot of fear mongering. So yeah, I think she's in trouble next debate, and it's not going to go well for her. So, but she is going to experience a bump after this one.
Assuming there actually is a next debate. But
yeah, someone brought up the idea that like whether or not this goes well or not, there probably won't be. You probably won't see Kamala Harris again in public.
That's what I was saying earlier. No, it's over. She cleared the hurdle that she thinks she has to clear, and she will hide the rest of the way.
Yes.
She may be calling for another debate, but they will give terms that are so egregious that there's no way that it's going to happen, is my guess.
Yeah.
And I agree. Her opening statement, she tried to hit all of her points all at once, and then she repeated those things throughout the night. She could not get away from just the exact same lines that she had already, tried to deliver during that opening statement. It was like she had to get all of it out there right in the beginning so that she didn't forget anything. And then she went back to those things throughout the night. There was nothing new after the first few questions.
Right.
So she blew her load.
That's a good way of putting it.
What did final thoughts from you, and what do you got going on? Well, Brandon, first, what do you got going on? This is kind of our outro too. So
tomorrow at about 7:30 p.m. Brand Risk goes live. We're going to be talking about the debate and Taylor Swift and her cats, because that's the real story.
Nice. Taking the old yelling at parked cars spot.
Oh yeah. Well, look, you guys leave it, and I pull up quick to retrieve it. So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Then you're pulling into our Monday night slot too, and our Friday night slot for Lil Chad. I saw.
Don't sleep on the Sir Mix-a-Lot reference, man. You got to give him credit.
No, it's just I think I was tired of competing with people's jobs and other streamers around that time slot. And it's also getting in the way of my own work. So I was like, I'm just going to move it to the night after my kid goes to bed. So that's where I am now.
Yeah. I was just trying to give you an opening to tell that your show is moving to a later time slot so that you could promote it. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah. That's where my show's going next week.
All righty. Comix, final thoughts, and what do you got going on?
Final thoughts. I think that Trump could have done obviously a better job, right? I think that you're pretty spot on with the idea of she just doesn't need to fall flat on her face. I would like to see another debate because I think that next debate he would end up destroying her. Because if you take a looking at history back in 2020 when he debated Biden, that debate was a real shit show.
Yeah.
The second one, which is the one that was done earlier this year, he was calm, cool, collected. He hit him on the points that he needed to hit him on. He did a fantastic job dismantling Joe Biden. And I think if he actually is able to get another debate, it is a good possibility that the same thing would happen here. The issue is, I think they're going to stick her in a basement. I think you're right. They're going to have some outrageous, outlandish conditions for the debate, which Trump won't agree to. And of course, the spin will be, well, he's just going to run and hide. He's scared. He got destroyed during the last debate, and he's afraid of the strong women. That's the thing, the spin I think they're going to take with it. And obviously, you can find me every Monday and Thursday on my channel when we stream at 9 p.m. Central Time. Of course, you can find me on Yelling at Parked Cars. Sorry, not Yelling at Parked Cars. Every Wednesday, not anymore. You can find me every Friday Night Tights. And Saturday, I also do a gaming stream with Geeks and Gamers where we're doing the Crimson Throne, which is a Savage Pathfinder game, which has been a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think the issue with having the second debate with her is she is so vapid and thoughtless that she can't hang herself like Joe Biden did, because Joe Biden at least had the thoughts of a leftist.
Well, not only that,
she's a chameleon that will just go in any direction.
I think saying that he has thoughts is a rather strong. I think that it's the lack of thoughts that are the issue.
But he tried to get them out. She doesn't even put out the thoughts.
Well,
I mean,
as Trump pointed out, she does put out. Yeah. So it's just thoughts that don't come out.
Kamala has the capability to hang herself because I don't think she understands her own positions. So, I mean, yeah, I'm still up in the air. I don't know if I would like to see another debate or not, because the way this one went and what the rules would be, I don't think it benefits him. I think the only thing it can do is possibly give her another bump, when I think if she stays radio silent for the next 57 days or whatever it is, you will just see her sink again, because they can't keep artificially bumping her up.
It is true that the people who are behind tend to be the ones calling for more debates. That's a general rule, that if you've got one campaign trying to do like Lincoln Douglas style, like let's do 27 debates, in front of everybody, it's because you're polling below the other people who don't have to do anything. I mean, when Trump was running in the Republican primary, he didn't have to do any debates because they were beneath him as the guy everybody was going to vote for anyway. Why bother? And that's just Brandon, the truth of it.
Go for it, bud.
I'm sorry?
You can go for it if you need to bail out. I mean, you did.
Sorry, guys.
You don't have to stick around for the rest of the outros, man.
All right. I'll see y'all later.
Night. Thank you for joining us for the after show.
Nice meeting you too. Bye.
Take care, Brandon. It's good seeing you, man.
You too, brother.
Yeah. Little Chad.
Yeah.
Wrap up thoughts, and what do you got going on?
Wrap up thoughts is, I do, like we talked about on the Sunday show, it was expectations. Kamala's going to come out looking like the perceived winner, but I don't think it moves the needle long term. I do think actually Trump's in a good position to, based on the way the debate went, and I've seen some people talking about this now, he's going to be able to rage against the machine, so to speak. Well, the moderators can be conglomerated into just the media, who's on Kamala's side, who's on the elite side.
News.
Fake news.
And Trump tends to be at his best when he's raging against the elites that are taking things from the average American. So in a way, even though this could be a pyrrhic victory for Kamala, like she might be perceived as the winner of the debate, but you've just loaded Trump with ammunition, because anybody who watched that, even if you feel like Kamala exceeded expectations, like it's so obvious that they were going after Trump that it just feeds the narrative he's good with. That's my final thoughts on the debate. We'll see. I think she'll get a bump where you'll see polls that show her up like 3 points nationally. I don't think battlegrounds it'll make much difference. And then it'll, like you said, as soon as it'll just reset. It'll be just like that sugar high when she took over. And then it just resets right back to, zero, to use the anime title. As for shows, me and Slender co-host the Ascendant Art podcast on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, which Brahma tends to drop into unless he's got family obligations. I know that unfortunately Comix has another show going on around that time, so he's probably a little busy and not available.
He's completely done with that show by the time our show starts.
Yeah, well, but that way, you don't want to make a guy have to go and stream for like 18 hours.
Yeah, you do. He needs exposure.
That's true. Our channel is
kind of exposure. I don't know what that is,
but yeah, it's a good time. We just by Friday, most stuff tends to be talked out, so we try to have different takes. Me and Slender will usually sometimes have a review of the new movies that are opening, and then we just kind of get into the conversation. I was this week, and hopefully, if Mad was coming on the show, I wanted to maybe do a Mad Fap of the Tyreek Hill body cam footage of his arrest to see, because my reading is that it's like 90-10 asshole cop is the problem. 10% Tyreek, but then the cops escalate, and I'd like to see where Mad comes down on that.
I was going 150, rolled up my tinted windows, refused to talk to the cop, and yeah, the cop's the bad guy. I mean, it may have been a little bit too much.
The cop
force,
escalated,
but
the cops. Tyreek
Hill escalated.
I've watched too many of I've fallen into the like audit, like First Amendment auditors and. I'm watching all those videos on YouTube. So I've seen too many cops that are just look. There was one with the 16-year-old girl just getting slammed to the ground after she pulled into a gas station. That cop got fired, thankfully.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of examples.
Comix may be able to attest to this. Going 150, if that was in Texas, you're getting arrested for attempted suicide.
He was going 65 and a 45.
Not from what I've heard. I heard 150.
It was 65 and a 45.
By the time it got
I
up
know
to
where
him?
you live, Chad. 65 and a 45 is pretty normal, but in a lot of the rest of the country, that's reckless driving.
He's in Miami.
Well, I mean, here in Texas, if you drive 25 miles over the speed limit, I mean, it's considered to be reckless driving.
Yeah, it's 20 in Virginia. So, I mean, I don't disagree with a reckless driving ticket, but I think it was unnecessarily escalated.
All right, I'll need more information.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
We're getting differing numbers on what the actual violation was. Slenderdad. Final thoughts and what you got going on. And I did Slender's new channel that is under the Ascendant Art umbrella is in the description. We put him in as Ascendant Arcade, so
that's right. He does a good job getting content out, which is all because he wants to, not because he's being forced to by anybody.
Okay, as far as the debate tonight, I don't think either candidate really moved the needle that much. I think Trump nailed the landing at the end, but a lot of that, why didn't he say it sooner? He definitely got flustered. He definitely got under her skin too. She got flustered as well.
It was mutual.
Which is saying something considering, he had 3 people beating the shit out of him and he still got a couple good licks in there. But I don't know. I would like to see another debate. I mean, I'm still thinking Trump takes it in November if nothing changes. So. But this was not the decisive victory I was hoping for. So
yeah, I'd agree with that.
So here's hoping.
Yeah. So what do you get? What do you do on Ascendant Arcade?
Ascendant Arcade is just random gaming. Whatever I decide I want to record that night. I did the first 20 minutes or so of Bastion the other day, which is a 2011 title from Supergiant Games. It's kind of it's their first title actually. It's a fun little game. Some Elden things here and there. We've done what else? Highlights from when we play Party Animals. Those are always a lot of fun, highly edited, so those ones take a little while. But I try to put something out every weekday, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm putting in a lot of editing hours for only having like 15 subscribers so far, but I'm hoping it turns into something. It's a lot of fun.
Welcome
And
to
then,
YouTube, my friend.
yeah. And then there's the Ascendant Art podcast, which is I am the other half on that every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank Toxic Man Flu, Pinochet's Helicopter Tours, and Southern Belle for the Rumble rants. As well as our previous guests. Shagsworth was here, Keri Smith was here, Brandon Morris, obviously, we just said goodbye to, and Culture Casino. I think that's everybody. Am I missing somebody?
I don't think you are.
Okay.
That sounds like everybody.
Everybody who came, thank you for joining the panel tonight.
And thanks again to the ones who Rumble ranted and sponsored tonight's shows.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I know. I'm saying it. I'm saying it too.
I'm not giving you any of that money.
I didn't ask. I didn't ask for it. You can buy another Trump wig.
No, I'll buy another bottle of Buffalo Trace since that last one broke.
Such a crime.
I know.
Oh, what happened?
It hit a carpet.
My chair hit a brand new, just opened bottle of Buffalo Trace, a 175 liter, the big boy, not the little bottle. It tipped over on the carpet and the bottom just completely shattered off. And
God.
All of the alcohol just evacuated.
By the way, that's what we call a Brahma one night bottle, because that's what he can take out in one night if you do enough streaming.
Well, I can. Yeah, as for my thoughts, Trump could have done better. Kamala, I really wish she had done worse, but with the again, I've said it over and over, but I'll repeat it one last time. With the bar that low, there wasn't much that was going to stop her. I'm not happy with how it was moderated.
Well, obviously, I mean, that was a mess.
Yeah, and I'm not happy about how the spin's going to be for the next few days. But the news cycle has been moving so fast that who knows how long this will last. Because I mean, it was what, July 13th? Trump got shot, and nobody talks about it anymore. That was 2 months ago. Not even 2 months ago.
But that was fake. It was fake.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
thing was staged.
We're
so
to
they
that
could get more
point
voters.
in the Twitter sphere, at very least, that it was all fake. Not that he couldn't have gotten plastic surgery within that first 2 days and done it, but yeah, I mean, the news cycle is moving so fast. It's almost impossible for anything to stay in the news cycle for more than a day or two at this point. So I'm not incredibly worried about that. I do think she will get a slight bump and then come right back to earth. And I think everybody needs to look, if you're looking at polls, you need to dig into them, and you need to look at what is happening in the swing states. On election night, the big question is going to be, I mean, out east, what happens with Pennsylvania? So that's really the deciding factor in this election. If there is another debate, me and Chad will obviously be doing a debate stream, and we will definitely be doing an election night stream. So come back and watch us for those. I thank all of the 567 people that are here right now. I thank everybody in YouTube. I think we had topped out at about 60 concurrent viewers, and there's 56 likes. So you're doing your job, and I appreciate that. I hope everybody has a great night. We will see you next time. Have a great night, everybody.
Take care.